New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by ChevyOffers.com, the presenting sponsor of Baseball Night in New York. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. Visit geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. By Rico, move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. By Honda, see your Honda dealer and discover the great values now being offered. And by Subway, introducing the play of the day at Subway, a regular 6-inch sandwich for only $2.99. Try all 7. Subway, eat fresh. Pedro getting ready for his start on Friday, just hanging out, staying out of the rain, holding court. Gives us a chance to talk about the Subway around the majors. Frank Thomas reclamation project in Oakland, and he is having himself a phenomenal year. Homers in 6 straight games.
And that Oakland team is look like they're on their way to an American League Western Championship. Amazing.
Oakland playing Minnesota again tonight. Twins won last night to get within a game and a half of the Tigers in that American League Central. Now the Tigers have lost 22 of their last 32. The Twins will get Francisco Liriano back tomorrow night, which could give them a huge boost. And right now, you wouldn't pick against the Twins getting to the World Series.
Well, this is momentum is everything in tight races. They are a game and a half back, 1 back in the loss column. That's most important. And they look like after that series up there in Minnesota, but it took 3 out of 4 from Detroit, that they are definitely in the driver's seat. The big disappointment here has been the White Sox.
And of course, the White Sox have a chance to get right back in it. You know, supposing the Twins pass Detroit, the White Sox have those 3 games left with the Tigers to try and send the Tigers completely out of it. And, you know, Detroit's been such a feel-good story along with Florida this year in Major League Baseball. But you never know what's going to happen down the stretch of a year. You've got to do it over 162 games.
Well, that's the beauty of baseball. It's every day over 6 months, and as you said, 162 games. And this is a young Detroit team, don't forget, the first time in the fire, a lot of these kids. So young kids can wilt in September.
And, you know, they released Dimitri Young earlier in the week because they felt as though he was being a negative influence in the clubhouse, but the losing has continued since Young left. And a lot of the young players have talked about the fact that they like Dimitri Young's presence there. So it makes you wonder whether the Tigers might have misstepped there.
Well, you know, I'll always side. I will always give Jim Leland the benefit of the doubt. I have great respect for him as a manager, and I think that if the decision was made to get rid of Demetrius Young, I think that it was more than likely it was probably valid. And you know what? Players, you've got to turn the page. Those are decisions that are not yours to make. Your job is to go out there and play hard every day.
Meanwhile, the Detroit offense has pretty much disappeared. The young pitchers are struggling and things are not going well for them. In the National League wild card, well, you've got the Padres sitting there on top, but their lead is only 2 games over these Florida Marlins. And who would have thought at the point in May when the Marlins were 11-31 that they would even be able to get to 500, which they've done. They're 2 games over, and now carry this young team into this incredible stretch drive.
Well, you know, I talked with Cookie Rojas in the press room around an hour ago, and he said that these young kids just go out there and play hard every day. He doesn't really think that they know what they're involved in here. And of course, the starting 5 has just been tremendous for this club, and they're all very young starters, and that's been their strength.
A lot of Met fans waiting out the rain here in South Florida, and the Mets are looking forward to getting Pedro Martinez back to the mound Friday night in Pittsburgh. That appears all but certain now as Willie tries to get his pitching lined up for the postseason.
And I think it's a good team, not putting down the Pirates, but I think, you know, arguably maybe the worst team in the National League. A good first start for him after missing so much time. I'm sure he'll probably only go 5 on a strict pitch count, but certainly a promising sign and a lift for the Mets.
Well, he certainly has his grips going. He's got that changeup grip all ready to go for Friday night. This is how I throw the changeup, he's telling the assembled masses. Well, the rain continues to fall. We'll come back to Dolphin Stadium and take a look at the long-range forecast in just a moment. Well, it looks like it's more than a passing shower here in South Florida. The rain is falling pretty steadily, and the forecast is that it will let up at some point and we'll be able to play baseball tonight. They have not had a rain out here in Florida all year, which is rather phenomenal considering the way the weather generally breaks. Well, the Mets are hoping this week to clinch the National League East title. We're going to take you to a Mets classic of their last clincher, September 22nd, 1988. Last night here in Miami, we honored the memory of that horrible day 5 years ago. And then the Marlins started bashing the baseballs. And they bashed some more to the tune of 5 home runs and 20 hits. And they blew the Mets out of the water 16-5. And tonight here at Dolphin Stadium in Miami, the Mets will try and get even in the series and try and reduce their magic number, which sits at 4 for clinching the National League East. And this will be their only chance to reduce it tonight, because the Phillies, who like the Marlins have 71 losses behind the Mets, have been rained out tonight in Atlanta. But the rain has stopped here, and after a delay of about 45 minutes at the start of this game, we're about ready for baseball.
Well, it poured, and that is for sure. And I drove down the 75 miles from north from Jupiter, which is north of here. I drove through a torrential downpour, and it was pouring here, that's for sure. But it's typical summer Florida weather.
You didn't do anything unsafe driving through a torrential downpour, did you?
I had to turn my lights on. I mean, it rained so hard you can't see but around maybe 100, 200 feet in front of you. Give you the car in front of you plenty of room.
That's good, but you didn't have to pull over, did you? Because I wouldn't have wanted you to be late.
No, I only pulled over for a cup of coffee.
That's good.
At the rest stops just to get up for this game.
Always important to keep yourself alert when you're on the road. Joe Girardi, the youthful manager of the Marlins. Matt Hergis, the veteran Marlin reliever today, was quoted as saying, if the Marlins make the playoffs, it will be the greatest feat in the history of Major League Baseball. Now, that might be overstating the case a little bit, but what the Marlins are attempting to do this team with this year, with this team full of rookies, and there's one of them, Josh Johnson, is nothing short of incredible.
Particularly with the start they had in April, which was horrific. And you got to give a lot of credit to Joe Girardi. I mean, he's a taskmaster. It's good for young kids. Now you look at one of his young starters there, Josh Johnson, 12-7. He is one of 3 rookie pitchers that have 12 wins that lead the major leagues.
And then throw in the 4th rookie starter, Anibal Sanchez, who we saw last night, and all he has done is pitch a no-hitter and go 8-2.
It's a pretty good rotation if you look at it. You got Dontrelle Willis, Scott Olsen's pitching tomorrow. And Ricky Nolasco has a little bit of a bum knee right now. He's iffy whether he's going to miss another start. And then you got this guy tonight, Josh Johnson. Pretty nice.
You always wonder, and we've seen it with the Tigers already in September, when you have so many young pitchers you're relying on coming down the stretch of a season. Most of these guys have never pitched in September before, much less October.
I agree with you 100%. And the bullpen down there is also suspect for this Marlin team.
Here's the Chevy Mets lineup, same as last night. Carlos Beltran now 1 home run away from tying the Mets club record after hitting his 40th last night. Cliff Floyd pushing that Achilles again after hitting a home run in his first at bat last night, but that was about all the Mets had to shout about in a 16-5 loss. Their pitchers got hit hard. They played very poor defensively, and they'll try and turn it around tonight as Jose Reyes leads off. And we're underway in Miami, about 47 minutes late.
Well, Jose back up to 300. I know we all know he wants to hit 300.
1-1 to Reyes.
And that's where Josh Johnson needs to be. Down on the knees, below the waist.
Johnson has faced the Mets twice this year, and he still has not given up an earned run against them. That's how effective this young pitcher has been. Just 22 years old. He faced the Mets here in May, pitched 7 innings, allowed just 2 hits. And then in July in New York, pitched 5 innings that allowed just 2 hits, as Paul LoDuca waits to bat next. Reyes slaps one to second, and Dan Uggla with a quick throw gets Reyes by a stride, 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on.
And we'll take a peek at the Marlin defense, brought to you by Ford, and it is the same lineup as last night. Why wouldn't you? 16 runs, run the same group out there. And of course, Cody Ross and Wright with the big night last night, and Uggla at second base, who had the 5-for-5 night. It was really a triple away from a cycle.
Well, here's the former Marlin, Paul LoDuca. Paul was 0 for 3 last night, 10th in the league in batting with that .309 average. And he whacks one foul. 0-1. LoDuca's had a little bit of a skid. 5 for his last 31. Willie has said that he is going to rest LoDuca more down the stretch of the season, and that will certainly make sense once the Mets get this thing clinched. Popped up and playable for Cabrera at third. 2 out.
Well, right now, Josh Johnson just coming out throwing fastballs. And what a year this man's having.
40 home runs, first time in his career he's reached that plateau, and one more he'll tie Todd Hundley's club record set 10 years ago. He's also trying to run down the Mets club RBI records and their runs scored record. He could litter his name all over the single season record book with a good last 2.5 weeks. Just one away.
Well, that's going to fall.
The center field, playable for Amezaga. And so Josh Johnson sets the Mets down 1-2-3 after the rain delay. Oliver Perez, coming off a shutout in his last start, will take the mound against the Marlins in the bottom of the first. 25-year-old Oliver Perez trying to prove that his last start was no mirage. And here is the Rico Marlins lineup. Marlins pounded out 16 runs and 20 hits last night, including 3 Cody Ross home runs, even if one of them was really a foul ball. He drove in 7 runs for the second time this season for 2 different teams.
And there you look at Oliver Perez here. He is getting his 4th start as a Met. He's 1-1 as a Met. His ERA is almost the same, 6.35. 2 bad starts, 1 very good one, his last.
And he throws a strike to start Hanley Ramirez, and that's the key for Perez. If he's throwing strikes, he certainly has every chance to pitch as successfully as he did last Wednesday against the Braves. And he's ahead on Ramirez 0-2.
Well, he threw only 107 pitches in that game, that second game of that doubleheader against the Braves, and 8 Atlanta batters put the first pitch in play. The 6 others did it on the second pitch, and you would think if you're approached, okay, if you get a good pitch, first pitch, fastball, fine, but
Ramirez on the ground to second, and Valentin throws him out, 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on.
I will continue that point, but at first we're going to check out the Met Geico defense. And it is the same lineup as last night. The same cast of characters. Floyd in left, as Gary said. He's fighting for a postseason roster spot. And Sean Green in right field. Seems to have a lock on that spot. But when you got a pitcher like Perez, who's got 93 innings pitched and 59 walks. Boy, you know, you get 7 pitches. You got to figure if you get 5, 6, 7 pitches against a pitcher like that with that kind of walk ratio, you're going to get 3 good pitches to hit. I guarantee you at every at bat. So patience.
This is not the most patient Florida team. They're young and they generally go up there hacking, with the exception of Miguel Cabrera, who is one of the best hitters in the game.
Cabrera's got 76 walks in the season, and he's got 23 intentional, which is 3rd in the National League, and that's not surprising.
Dan Uggla swings and misses at the fastball. Now, Uggla last night went 5 for 5. And I thought Chris Cotter put it wonderfully to him in the postgame interview. He said, how is it you can go 5 for 5 and you weren't the player of the game?
That's a tough silver, isn't it?
Wow. Well, when your teammate hits 3 homers and drives in 7 runs and goes 4 for 5, you kind of get lost in the shuffle. But Uggla had one of those 5 home runs last night. You see, the 3rd rookie ever to have 5 hits in a game against the Mets, and the Marlins were the first team ever to get 5 home runs from rookies in one game. Nobody had ever done that before. Delgado over near the dugout with LoDuca, and it's beyond their reach. Dan Uggla, Rule 5 pick out of the Arizona organization and a prime candidate for National League Rookie of the Year honors.
Well, there they are right there.
Those are the batting average leaders. Ryan Zimmerman leads in RBIs. Prince Fielder and Ugla tied for the lead in home runs among rookies. And then throw in Russell Martin, the Dodger catcher, who's been so good offensively and defensively. Throw in all the Marlin pitchers who pitched so well.
It's a fine crop of young players. And there's Dontrell on the left, and Mike Jacobs, the former Met, right there in the middle.
Jacobs not starting again tonight because the Mets are throwing a lefty. And the breaking ball hit hard and passed right. And so Ugla is now 6 for 6 in the series.
Well, the one thing that Perez has to worry about is that when he comes down, Gary, too much sidearm on his breaking ball, it tends to flatten out just out of the reach of the diving David Wright here. So watch his reaction. And David's had a lot of chances the first game last night, a ton of ground ball and doubles down the line and plays like that where he had to dive.
I guess the question is, Keith, talking about Perez's arm angle, does a lefty need to drop down against right-hand batters?
No, you don't want to, because your breaking balls, I was going to say, flattens out. And also you see when he comes 3/4 with his fastball. Now if he drops down to almost a sidearm position, that is a Western Union to a hitter. The point of release, if it changes on a curveball fastball, that's easy to pick up for a hitter.
You can see he would want to do that against a lefty.
Yes.
But there are no lefties in the Marlins lineup tonight. And Cabrera takes a fastball for a strike. Miguel Cabrera now leading the National League in batting. He passed by Freddie Sanchez of the Pirates last night by going 2 for 3. Josh Willingham on deck. He had one of those 5 rookie home runs for the Marlins last night. Cabrera second in the league with 48 doubles. That's a Marlins club record. He broke Cliff Floyd's mark. Perez ahead on 1 and 2.
Well, there you go right there. There's the list right there, the top 5 hitters.
And you know what's amazing about that list? Right-hand batters, all 5 of them. It doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't. Cabrera, of course, the youngest to hit back-to-back 30 home run seasons. He's got 25 this year. He's got some work to do to get 30 this year. And he looks like he's gotten a little heftier. I mean, not as far as fat-wise, but just filled out a little bit and got a little stronger.
And he's only 23. Struck him out. Oliver Perez, 94-mile-an-hour fastball gets Cabrera 2 away.
Well, Perez, we were wondering whether he'd come out throwing strikes. Now that one was out of the strike zone, but that's just good movement. But certainly in this first inning, Gary, he's come out and pretty much the same game plan. Predominantly fastball, get ahead with the fastball, throwing strikes, and then mix in the breaking ball.
So here's Josh Willingham. 2 for 4 with a home run last night. Get that home run to the opposite field. 1-0 to Willingham. The plan going into spring training, in fact going into the season for the Marlins, was to have Willingham catch a good deal of the time and play left field the rest of the time. Well, he's only caught 2 games this year, but he's been out there every day playing left field and now hitting cleanup tonight. 2-0.
Hey, I thought he was in Napa looking after his vineyard.
Stomping on grapes.
Tom's not bald.
No.
Balding.
I can't say a word. On the inside corner, 2-1. Ugla will steal a base only occasionally. He has 6 this year. Perez working from that extreme third base side of the rubber. And that appears to have made a difference for Perez, working all the way over on that third base corner.
Well, with Mota, they moved him over to the first base side, but a right-hander, and just the opposite for a lefty.
It's a great hat.
Always those little minor adjustments.
2-1 to Willingham. And he misses with the fastball. 3-1.
Well, the Mets got hurt last night, particularly with Cody Ross, those 3 home runs where they worked, the hitters worked themselves into fastball counts. Oh, who is that man? That's not my nose.
I don't know, but he's selling a lot of peanuts. On 3-1, Willingham drives a base hit. Uglo going first to third. And the Marlins have runners at the corners with 2 down.
Well, young hitters in this ball club and getting into fastball counts. And this is what hurt the Mets in the opening game, as I said earlier. There's a 3-1 fastball out over the plate that Willingham just jumps all over.
So Wes Helms will come to bat with first and third and 2 down. Perez trying to survive the first inning. Helms has been playing more and more the second half of the year as he and Mike Jacobs now are platooning at first base. Jacobs had been playing every day against lefties and righties earlier in the year, but he didn't hit lefties much, and Helms has, and so Helms is getting the playing time. And the Mets are starting 3 lefties in this series. Williams last night, Perez tonight, Glavine tomorrow.
And the Marlins saw 2 left-handers win the series prior.
Against the Phillies. You have 3 lefties in their rotation.
Ooh, that just missed.
Got him tied up with the slider, and it's 1-1.
See the down break there a little bit, so that means he's getting on top. When it flattens out, that means he's throwing more sidearm, and that's what his bad habit is.
There's last night's hero, Cody Ross, on deck. 1-1 to Helms. Drives it to left. Floyd back, and it's over his head. Bouncing back toward the infield. 2 runs will score easily, and into second with a double and 2 RBIs is Wes Helms. And the Marlins out quickly again tonight. It's 2-0 Florida. And Cliff is just not moving very well.
Well, that ball was a bullet. Tough chance fastball up and down the pipe. You saw LoDuca wanted it in. Right down Broadway. Cliff, nice effort. Short hopped the wall, didn't get back. You're right, Garrett.
And once it bounced back toward the infield, he had a lot of trouble changing direction to go after it, and Beltran had to come over from center field.
Well, when you're on second base on first base, excuse me, look at the wrong runner. 2 outs, nothing to do with ball off the bat, you run.
So 2 runs are in on the Helms double. Here's Cody Ross, and he takes the slider low.
Well, with Cliff in left, this is a big ballpark. We talked about it last night. And Sean Green in right, they don't cover a lot of ground. That's a lot of responsibility on Beltran in center field. And I believe that's why he's played pretty much straight away the whole series.
And Ross takes the slider low, and it's 2-0. Ross last night tied a Marlins club record with his 7 RBIs. Gary Sheffield and Greg Colbert, the only other Marlins to drive in 7 runs in a game. Perez behind him 2-0. And he throws another breaking ball and gets this one over.
Well, Ross's home runs, all 3 of them, were all fastballs. So they've thrown him breaking balls in this at bat. They're not going to give him the cheddar unless they have to.
First base open, so no reason to give him anything you don't want to. Comes inside with a fastball, and it's 3-1. We mentioned that Ross drove in 7 runs in a game earlier this year while playing for the Dodgers. He's the first National Leaguer to have 2 7 RBI games in the same season since Andres Galarraga did it 10 years ago. And the funny thing is, as Ross takes ball 4, is that you look at Ross's numbers, and he hadn't had a very good year. He has 14 RBIs in 2 games and only 28 the rest of the year.
42 on the, well, he's not drove in the 42. Yes,
yeah.
You're right. Math was always difficult.
But I mean, it means he's had a couple of unbelievable days,
yes,
but not a particularly good year.
Right.
Well, Miguel Olivo, don't throw him a first pitch fastball. Olivo with 14 home runs this year, and virtually all of them have come on the first pitch. Willie Randolph consulting with Rick Down. And Rick Peterson comes back to form the triumvirate as Perez tries to work his way out of this inning. He throws a letter high strike, 0-1 to Olivo.
He threw Olivo what he likes. First pitch fastball, he took it.
There's a reason Olivo has only walked 8 times this year.
And there it is right there, the old breaking ball in the dirt.
Well, Perez is about to throw his 30th pitch here in the first inning. 2 on, 2 out, 2 runs home. Fouled away. Helms at second, he doubled. Ross at first, he walked. 2 out. Game delayed 47 minutes at the start by rain. Only the 5th rain delay they've had here in Florida all season, and they've not had a single rain out. Heck, rain's been a lot more troublesome at shade than it has been here. You think of South Florida and you think of rain falling every day in the late afternoon, but it hasn't affected the Marlins during ball games hardly at all. Check swing on the ball in the dirt. Did he swing? Apparently not. Jeff Merriweather finally makes the call down at first, and it's 2-2.
Nice block by LoDuca. Tough play right here. Uses the body well, the chest protector,
and smartly went after the ball before asking for the call, just in case. Called foul.
all this stuff started as a little breaking ball in the outside corner. Got too much of the plate. This rally basically was started with 2 outs.
2-2 to Olivo. Struck him out. Second strikeout for Perez, and the inning finally comes to an end. But the Marlins, who got 4 first-inning runs last night, put up a deuce tonight. And again, Florida has the early lead. Log on to Mets.com now for your postseason ticket purchase opportunity. The deadline to register for the Division Series drawing is this Tuesday at midnight. For details, go to Mets.com or LosMets.com. Youngster just waiting for a foul ball. And if you come to a game here, you got a lot better odds of getting a foul ball than you do at Shea. Not as much competition.
That's okay. Yes. You're on top.
Carlos Delgado leads off and takes a strike. Marlins are dead last in the major leagues in attendance. In fact, last night they became the last team in the majors this season to reach 1 million in attendance. The Mets have already gone by 3 million. 1-1 to Delgado.
Well, you know, you'd think it would be tough. Oh, it's starting to rain again.
That makes it tough too. 2-1 to Carlos.
You know, talking about not playing in front of big crowds, I think with this Marlin team, all these young kids, they're happy to be in the big leagues.
Well, these crowds are a lot bigger than the ones in AA and AAA. 3-1 to Delgado. Many of them, they're getting used for the first time to playing in double-deck stadiums. So the rain's falling again. 3-2 to Delgado. Carlos with 37 home runs, 102 runs batted in. Mets already have 3 players with 100 or more RBIs. They might have 3 with 110 by the end of the year. And there's ball 4, and Delgado draws a leadoff walk. And let's see what the umpires are going to do. I think they're going to stop it right now. Yep. Apparently not. Looked like Jerry Crawford was making a signal, but apparently not.
And there's always the hope that it's a passing shower like last night. And I do believe everybody in uniform tonight on the field does not want a doubleheader tomorrow.
No. Well, it started quickly just now, and the hope is clearly that it will end just as quickly. And Josh Johnson appears to be slipping around out there, and that's the danger. And I think Jerry Crawford has decided to stop it. Yep. After watching Johnson throw that last pitch, Jerry's going to have the grounds crew cover the field, and we're going to have a rain delay. And you know, you can't. You love to play through, but your fear is always that somebody's going to get hurt. And after Johnson threw that last pitch and appeared to slip on the mound, I think that was the clincher for Jerry.
And it's not letting up. I mean, it's a steady rain right now, so rather err on the side of caution.
I love that look to the sky that Willie just gave, that skeptical look to the sky like, what are you doing to me, God? I want to clinch this division, and I want to clinch it soon. Well, while we wait for the rain to stop, we invite you to vote tonight in the MLB.com SNY text message poll of the day. It's a good question. Who do you think is the best manager in Mets history? Gil Hodges? Yogi Berra?
Surprised that Bobby Valentine's not in there.
Well, yeah. Who would you take out?
I would add.
Well, I think they only have room for A, B, C, and D.
Well, who has the least tenure right now is Willie.
Yogi took the Mets to a World Series in '73.
Pouring now.
Well, they certainly made the right decision to cover the field because it is really teeming now. I mean, Gil Hodges won a World Series. Davey Johnson won a World Series. Yogi took them to a World Series, and Willie hopes to take them to a World Series. Bobby Valentine, of course, also took the Mets to a World Series.
So I think it'd be only fair. Maybe we can add an E to that. Can we add an E?
You're waiting for an E.
Can we add an E, guys?
Next time, we'll get Keith an E. Text your answer to 57508. For each text, you'll be entered into a drawing to win 2 tickets to the first NLDS game at Shea. Standard rate messaging fees may apply, so check with your carrier. Go to sny.tv for complete rules. So we'll hang out here, come back to the game when it resumes. Right now, we're going to take you back to your Mets classics from 1988. Back at Dolphin Stadium in Miami, what we hoped was a passing shower has turned into a torrential downpour. I mean, it is just pouring like you can't believe here in Miami. There's flooding outside the tarp, and if we play baseball tonight here in Miami, and the game was stopped in the second inning with the Marlins up 2-0, it is going to take a long time for them to repair the damage that has been done to the field by the rain over the last half hour or so. Well, while we have a minute, and we've got plenty of them, let's check out the Jeep upcoming schedule. Tomorrow, final game of this series, and who knows, if it doesn't stop raining, it may be the final 2 games of this series. And then the Mets head to Pittsburgh for the weekend, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. Don't forget, Friday night is Pedro Martinez's scheduled return to the mound. Don't forget to vote in our MLB.com SNY text poll of the game. Who do you think is the best Mets manager in history? Keith wanted a write-in vote. But text A, B, C, or D to 57508, and we'll have the answers for you later in the game. Miguel Olivo doing a little groundskeeping in the dugout. We'll hang out here Let's send you back to 1988 and see how Ron Darling's doing on the mound. Well, welcome back to Dolphin Stadium in Miami. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, Chris Cotter with you as the Mets and Marlins set to resume play sometime soon, although with a lot of water on the field. Chris Cotter, what do you see from down where you are?
Tons and tons of water. But I tell you what, though, the field, just literally minutes ago, Gary, and you were witness to it, had a lake in right and in center field. And they have an unbelievable drainage system here. They have a completely sand base underneath the turf, which helps it, and also a drainage system which literally sucks the water out. So we're in much better shape than we were in just 5 minutes ago, and apparently they feel like the conditions are ripe. Now, one thing about the field, though, is in right field, it's been heavily damaged by 2 preseason football games. This is one of just 2 stadiums where they still play football, Oakland being the other. And what they do is they just go out there with a big vacuum, literally, and vacuum up all of the divots, and they just leave the brown spots behind until they get finished playing baseball. So that is something to be concerned with as David Wright gets us back into action, Gary.
Well, an hour and 22 minutes on our second rain delay of the night. A 47-minute rain delay at the start, so we've had over 2 hours of rain delays tonight. Mets batting in the top of the second, trailing 2-0. Delgado at first and nobody out. And it's a 2-1 count to David Wright. Now, both starting pitchers are coming back from this rain delay. Oliver Perez is getting ready in the bullpen for the Mets, and Josh Johnson, the 22-year-old rookie, there's Perez, finished his warm-up pitches. The 22-year-old Johnson coming back after this long delay for the Marlins.
Well, they both only threw 1 inning, so I think that's why they're coming back. And no one really wanted to play a doubleheader tomorrow. I mean, you've got Philadelphia now washed out playing 2. The Marlins have 2 on the board, even though once the lineup cards are given to the umpires in the umpire's hands.
Two and two to Wright.
But the Marlins, with up 2 runs, would certainly want to play this game and not play 2. It's hard to sweep doubleheaders. And you've got now Philadelphia going to be playing 2 tomorrow.
Double play ball to Ramirez, to Ugla, and on to first. Double play, 2-man down. (6-4-3) double play, 2 out and nobody on.
Well, tailor-made right here, right to Ramirez, to Ugla. Looks like double play to me.
I have to ask you, Keith, I'm looking out in right field and looking at all that standing water that is still there, and they spread a lot of the water around. It looks very dangerous out there in right field to me.
Well, it's the shallow right field that looks bad, and in foul territory by the first base coach and behind the first base umpire.
Ball 1 to Cliff Floyd.
That looks really, really waterlogged. You certainly want to be careful. You see right there, slipping and sliding.
That's not good. They can talk all they want about how well this field drains, but with the football games they've had here, there are a lot of brown spots out there, and all they really did was spread the water around. A lot of it is just sitting there. And if I'm the right fielder or the second baseman going back on the ball, I'm going to be tiptoeing. 1 and 2 to Floyd.
Oh, Cliff's backswing hit the Oliva in the head. You can hear the sound here too.
Doink. Oh.
Ouch. Well, he's got that helmet on. Remember back in the days when the catchers did not wear hats, and we're going to take a listen here.
That's smarts. To Ugla. And so Johnson comes back from the rain delay and gets a couple of ground balls. Oliver Perez back to the mound. 2-0 Florida. Oliver Perez, a rough first inning, then an hour-and-a-half rain delay, and we'll see how he bounces back in the second as Alfredo Amezaga leads off, the number 8 hitter. Marlins put up 2 runs and 3 hits in the opening inning. Amezaga, one of the few Marlins who didn't feast last night. He went 0 for 3. And batting from his by far weaker side. Amezaga hitting .073 as a right-hand batter this year.
3 for 38 against lefties. And of course, both corners of the Mets defense are in on the infield.
1-1 to amaze again.
It is just amazing down here in Florida, and I'm sure a lot of New Yorkers know up there. New Yorkers travel to Florida all the time, how it can just downpour and all of a sudden disappear just like that, and have a playable field.
The amazing thing is this is by far the worst game of rain that they've had here in Florida this year. It's only their 5th rain delay this year. I guess they're 5th and 6th technically, since we've had 2 of them tonight. So they've had pretty good luck with the weather, a lot better than we've had in New York, where we've had 3 rainouts already this season at Shea. They've had none here.
Well, the Mets, there was talk of, okay, during the rain delay, can they play?
Struck him out. Good fastball by Perez, 1 away. 3rd strikeout for Oliver.
Talk of for upstairs. Perez, 2 of his strikeouts have been up and out of the strike zone. Talk of playing possibly on the off day, but the Marlins are in the process right now of playing. There's a union rule that was around when I played that you can't play more than 19 games in a row, and it would be 20 in a row for this Marlin team. So there would have to be a vote taken by both. It'd be by the players on both teams to approve playing anything extending over 19 games.
And of course, everybody concerned would have wanted to play tonight. Anytime you come to the ballpark, you'd much rather play than not play.
Good strike right there.
0-2 to Josh Johnson, a right-hand pitcher but a left-hand batter. The only lefty Perez is facing in this Marlin lineup tonight.
Right to the glove.
Johnson just 4 for 40 at the plate. And he goes down on 3 pitches. 3rd consecutive strikeout for Perez, 2 out. Well, the Marlins took the lead in the opening inning. Wes Helms had the big hit.
Well, they got a hitter's count there, and Floyd, we know he's got the tender Achilles, did not get back on that ball. Tough chance. That was a rope.
And another thing that factors into plays in the outfield right now in this ballpark, once they start playing football games here, the lights are redirected. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the left field scoreboard, that disappears when they have football games and those stands roll out. So that entire left field area is not part of the field. So there's very little light in left field once they redirect the lights toward the football configuration. So it's kind of dark in left field. And I was talking to Cliff about that tonight. He says it's very, very different this time of year than it is earlier in the season when the lights are directed for baseball. 1-2 to Hanley Ramirez.
Well, no effect on this delay here on Perez. He's come out throwing better than when he started the game. He's thrown real hard.
2nd win. Just missed. 2-2.
So the Dolphin football field here then is, it runs the end zones are the right field fence to the 3rd base line.
Right. Struck him out, and Oliver Perez strikes out the side in the 2nd inning. So a great return from the rain delay for Perez. Bounces back after a tough first to strike out the side in the 2nd. Josh Johnson and Oliver Perez both bouncing back very nicely after the rain delay. And Sean Green will lead off against Johnson in the 3rd with the Mets down 2-0. Sean was 1 for 4 last night, hitting at .282, and he takes ball 1 from Johnson. Mets have still not gotten an earned run this year against Josh Johnson, now in 14 innings. And Johnson has been spectacular, 9th in the National League in earned run average as a rookie, and he wasn't even put in the Marlins rotation until early May. Jose Valentin on deck. That's into the seats. 1-2 to Green.
You are right. He had 7 relief appearances in April. And over those 7 appearances, 10 2/3 innings, he gave up 5 runs. And only got hit only in 1 relief appearance. Gave up 4 runs in 1 relief appearance. And then got his first start on May 4th.
Green went around, strike 3.
Well, I think it's going to be one of those
Brian
games.
O'Nora and Sean Green have a little conversation there.
It's going to be one of those games, I think, where swing the bat, guys. It's late. I don't think it was even close. Do you, Gary?
Well, he said he swung.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think he came even close to swinging.
No, I agree. So it's the school of Frank Pulley right here.
Brian O'Nora taking full charge. So say Valentine, and he lifts one to center. Meziga started back with plenty of time to get under it. 2 away. So 2 out and nobody on. You know, you look back on this Florida team starting out 11-31, and you know, one of the reasons was that they really didn't have their pitching in order. Johnson wasn't in the rotation to start the year. Scott Olson wasn't in the rotation to start the year. So they were still trying to figure out exactly what they had. And then Dontrelle Willis got off to a very bad start. And that all kind of accumulated into that 11-31 beginning. And you know, people say, well, Joe Girardi's done a great job with not very much talent here. Well, he's got a lot of talent here. It just happens to be very young talent.
Flared over the bag, and that's a base hit for Oliver Perez. His first is a Met.
The ball gets stuck on the wet warning track, but Willingham gets it in, and Perez has the Mets' first hit of the game.
Well, he's now 4 for 32, and he stayed level. He got jammed. It's a big inside-out swing, but he stays level, and that's what happens. Nice hitting for young Oliver.
So Jose Reyes will come up with a runner aboard. Waiting as Hanley Ramirez, the Marlins shortstop, ran all the way back on the warning track to do some housekeeping. I thought maybe he was going to go grab a squeegee
or tongue depressor.
Reyes, and Johnson uses all of his 6'7" to get that one, and that retires the side. Sometimes it helps to be tall. Would have been a pretty good rebounder. Wrestling fans, starting September 22nd, Friday Night SmackDown is moving to the all-new CW11. Now you can catch all the action of your favorite WWE superstars on their new home. Friday Night SmackDown starting September 22nd on the CW11. Dan Uggla leads off the home third inning. Mets haven't gotten him out yet in this series. 5 for 5 last night. Had a base hit his first time up tonight. They may finally get him. Reyes guns down Uggla, and now he's 6 for 7 in the series. So 1 out and nobody on. Now the Marlins fighting uphill have gotten to within 2 games of the wild card lead. The Padres right now are tied 4-4 with the Reds in the 9th. In their game, the Phillies got rained out tonight. The Giants play later.
And that was a game San Diego had a 4-3 lead. So,
and you see all these teams are going to have to do it away from home. As Miguel Cabrera takes a strike.
Yes, you can see right there an inordinate amount of games on the road.
And what affects that Marlins opponent's winning percentage is that, including tonight, they still have 6 more games with the Mets, 2 in this series and then 4 at Shea next week.
And the Padres have a very fine record on the road. They're a good road team. Giants have the most home games.
Now the Padres have 4 with the Dodgers over the weekend. Remember that San Diego's just a game and a half behind LA for the West League. And all these things are going to impact, you know, whom the Mets play in the postseason. There's no way of telling with any degree of certainty whom the Mets will play in the first round, because if the wild card comes out of the East, then they would play the division champ in the Central and West with the lesser record, as Cabrera swings and misses. And right now the Cardinals and Dodgers have the exact same record, so there's no way of knowing. Cabrera lifts one foul. Meanwhile, in the American League, a huge win for the Detroit Tigers tonight to stop the bleeding as they beat Texas 3-2.
I'll say, and the Twins are losing right now in the top of the 6th to Oakland 5-3.
1-2 to Cabrera. Just missed 2-2.
I'll tell you what, Cabrera's got to dial it up a notch here. He struck out his first at bat back in the first inning a way long time ago on high fastballs. And he hasn't gotten around on Oliver's gas in this bat. In this at bat.
Perez comes inside. I was wondering whether there might be any fallout from Cabrera's little reaction to Heath Bell last night, when Bell pumped his fist after striking Cabrera out, and Cabrera took offense rather notably.
Let it go.
Cabrera lifts one, and that'll slice away and go foul.
Why create anything? You still got to play this team up in New York. Man, we all talked about it yesterday. Cabrera, I thought, was overreacting, and you know, Heath Bell's in the heat of battle, and that's the league leading hitter right there. He struck out.
Cabrera rips one to left, and the Marlins have their 4th hit. So a 1-out single from Miguel Cabrera. Here's what happened last night. Bell strikes out Cabrera, pumps his fist, and Cabrera clearly took offense.
Well, there was nothing over emoting, over emoting by Bell. Just struck out a very good hitter.
Well, the problem that I had with Cabrera, you know, wasn't even the initial reaction. It was the fact that afterward he was chirping about it on the bench, and then took the field.
As Willingham hits one deep to left center field. Beltran looking off, and it's out of here. Josh Willingham with a 2-run homer, his 24th. And the Marlins now have a 4-0 lead. Well, the Marlins have 2 rookies, Ugla and Willingham, each with 24 home runs. No team in Major League history has ever had 2 rookies hit that many home runs in the same season.
Well, Perez is throwing a lot of fastballs, and I like that, but he just can't groove them like that. And they're going second time through the order now, looking for first ball fastball off of Oliver. And there it is.
What a sound.
That's a bomb.
I said Major League history. I meant National League history. That's the most 2 rookie teammates have ever had. Wes Helms drove in the first 2 runs with a double, 1-1 to him. Well, Mets starting pitching the last few days has left a lot to be desired. Steve Traxel got beat up by the Dodgers on Sunday. Dave Williams lasted just 3 innings plus last night, and Perez has been hit hard early in this game.
Boy, and all of a sudden this Marlin crowd's come to life.
Well, the Marlins are right in the thick of a race. They're not drawing very many fans, but those who are here understand the import.
Well, they would certainly love a San Diego loss tonight in extra innings up in Cincinnati. That would put them a game back.
You know, when the Marlins have been good, you know, they won it all in 1997 and again in 2003. They have drawn enormous crowds for their postseason game. As the slider misses to Helms. And the Marlins are hoping that if they get to the postseason this year, they might be able to cash in on that. You know what they've done? If you want to buy a postseason ticket to a Marlins game, you have to put down a deposit on season tickets for next year.
Well, that's not going to go over well. I guarantee you. I think that's a huge mistake.
Well, what it'll mean is they may not be able to sell out their postseason games, but they might be able to increase their attendance for next year.
There's Jeffrey Loria, the owner of the Marlins.
I mean, they're trying to do whatever they can to try and put more people into this ballpark. It's been very, very rough for them.
They need a dome.
Well,
and a baseball stadium.
Helms goes down swinging. That's 6 strikeouts for Perez among the first 8 outs. And now they're at 2 away. Here's Cody Ross, who had the big night last night with 3 home runs. Walked his first time up tonight.
Nice healthy cut. This is a power to power. Oliver likes to throw that cheddar. And this is a young fastball hitting club.
Well, they started this last night here in Florida, this Cody chance. You can understand why.
Well, no matter how hard you throw, major league hitters are going to hit it. You got to have something to go with it.
Goes off speed and gets a strike, 1 and 2. And that's clearly something Perez needs to do more of.
He needs to work on, if not a better breaking ball, more over the top that might get more down break, maybe a changeup.
Fastball just misses, 2 and 2. Well, Perez certainly has strikeout stuff tonight. He's already fanned 6 batters. He once struck out 14 in a game while pitching for the Padres. Slider popped foul.
We'll take a look at his motion this last pitch, which is a breaking ball. Big leg kick. Let's see the point of release. That's 3/4. Follows through very strongly towards the third base line.
Well, the concern with Perez has always been about him being able to repeat his delivery, especially since he likes to experiment with different arm angles. And you see the pitch count much higher than he'd like it to be. Two and 2 to Ross. And a full count.
Well, he's worked himself into a fastball count. Not a strong fastball count, but certainly 3 and 2.
Fouls off the fastball. Cody Ross traded twice this year, from the Dodgers to the Reds to the Marlins. Miguel Olivo on deck. And he walked it. Third walk given up by Perez. Second that's gone to Ross. And this one much more reminiscent of Perez's start in Colorado than his last start against the Braves at Shea. So Ross at first with 2 down. And here's Olivo, who struck out his first time up. First pitch breaking ball, and he fouls it off. I'm not sure. I guess he threw one the first time up, but the rest of the season you wouldn't expect Olivo to get 5 first pitch fastballs.
No. I mean, the league caught on real quick, and if they didn't, the Elias Bureau certainly caught on quick.
And Perez gets ahead 0-2.
Nope, here's the old breaking ball in the dirt. Second time he's went after a bad breaking ball. First at bat he did so too. So that's one of the reasons why he has only 8 walks on the season, 87 strikeouts.
Olivo has done the bulk of the catching for the Marlins this year, and as often happens with catchers late in the season, his offensive numbers have faded a little bit coming down the stretch. One and 2 to Olivo.
Did you see how far the umpire got over there on that pitch? On the when LoDuca set up inside, was it a? Look at this. Look where he is. How can he call an outside corner? My goodness.
Struck him out. That's 7 strikeouts in the first 3 innings for Oliver Perez. That's the good news. The bad news is he's down 4-0. Long rain delay built up a big appetite. Do you want a one-on-one with the Jets GM? Sportsnet New York welcomes Mike Tannenbaum to the SNY studios every week for a sit-down to break down Gangrene's previous game and look at the week ahead. Jets First and Goal with Mike Tannenbaum Thursdays at 4:30 only on Sportsnet New York.
Oh, that's a good idea for a program. Big win in Tennessee.
Always fun to talk after a win. Paul LoDuca takes ball 1. Well, Peterson having a sit down with Oliver Perez after that last inning. Two 2-0 to LoDuca.
Well, you mentioned that LoDuca's been in a little bit of a slow dry spell right now. When he goes dry, gets a lot of balls in the air. When Paul hits, when he's hitting the ball sharply and crisply, he's hitting line drives. He was 0 for 4 last night with 3 flyouts, and he's got a pop-up today. He has a little tendency to swing up on a little bit of an uppercut swing, and he really is someone that really should be disciplined and stay level. He's not a home run hitter.
Well,
he's had such a great season.
Well, we've talked about the fact that he's a lifetime .224 hitter in the month of September. As he bloops one to center, and that'll fall for a base hit. So the Mets are going to watch LoDuca's playing time in September, just making sure that he's sharp and strong for October. Let's check out the Aflac trivia question. It's been a perfect night for a duck. Since the start of division play, which team clinched the division earliest?
Division play meaning going
1969.
Right. God, I got to think the Reds are in there. Oh,
maybe one of those great Orioles
76
teams.
Phillies, I'll say.
Really? Did they win by that much? The Pirates were pretty good that year, weren't they, in the Expos?
I thought they ran away with the league.
Did they? I would tend toward either the Big Red Machine somewhere there in the 70s, or maybe one of those Baltimore teams in the early 70s.
Yeah, but the Big Red Machine always fought it out with the good Dodger teams too. The Dodgers were no slouch. Garvey and Russell. And
what about the Mariners the year they won 114 games, was it? 1-2 to Beltran.
Well, we'll find out.
Good question.
Could be the Mariners.
Wasn't you guys, was it? You won by 21.
It's another question, and I don't know. Again, I have the slightest clue.
Beltran pops it up. And Hanley Ramirez handles it 1 away. You know, while you were away over the weekend, we had a question that Ronnie and I were both sure that you would have gotten the answer to.
You guys were making fun of me, and I didn't like it.
Did you feel as though we were making fun of you? We were laughing along with you.
I was actually, I was laughing.
See? Because you've been complaining all year that the questions were too hard. And here we are. You come back, and we've got another hard question. Here's Delgado, and he takes ball 1.
So who was the first team or the team that clinched it the earliest since division play?
Right.
Okay, since '69.
Right.
Wow. And that's both leagues. And I never really followed the American League that much. How about the Yankees when they had that great season? Most wins ever.
To left field, hit well, but Willingham has room. And that's the second out. And back to first goes LoDuca, 2 away. Yeah, the Mariners won 116. The Yankees won 114.
Right.
So could be one of those two.
Can we have the answer next half inning? I'm very curious to see it. Or are you going to make the folks and us wait?
Well, this game's got a long way to go. You kind of like to hold out on the suspense.
Well, I'll ask the truck in between innings here.
David Wright grounded into a double play his first trip. And a chance for Ramirez, gets the force at second, and that puts an end to the 4th. So Josh Johnson 16 innings now against the Mets this year, still has not allowed an earned run. Well, Keith, only because you asked for it, we're going to get you the answer to the Affleck trivia question.
Okay, that's a good question.
I go with Seattle.
Okay.
Ooh, big red machine.
I talked you off of it. So the Dodgers must have just really had an abysmal season that year.
Because the Dodgers played in the World Series in '74, and then obviously did not have a very good year in that National League West in '75.
It's always hard to repeat.
Alfredo Amezaga takes a strike. And, you know, we've talked a lot about teams with big leads and how they go into the postseason. Remember, the Reds that year won it all in that great World Series with the Red Sox in '75. Nothing in 2 to Amezaga. They also had a tremendous league championship series that year with the Pirates in '75.
That was when Candelaria lost that game. Pete Rose hit the home run off him that beat him. Is that the series? I recall Rose hitting right-handed and beating John Candelaria on a 1-run game. It was like 1-0 or 2-1. It, like everybody took up and noticed John Candelaria that year. I could be wrong.
Isn't that the year George Foster scored the winning run on a wild pitch in the last game? In there for a call, strike 3. That's 8 strikeouts for Oliver Perez, most he's had in any start as a Met.
Well, just a fastball right there. And Amezaga, as we said, now 3 for 40 against left-handers. There's no question that Perez has a great arm.
So 1 out and nobody on. Here's the pitcher, Josh Johnson. Johnson struck out his first time up.
Oh boy, that's just throwing it right by him.
Well, he's dominated the bottom part of the batting order.
He certainly has.
Olivo and Amezaga, the 7 and 8 hitters, have struck out twice, and Johnson once, and almost twice.
That's a tall target there.
Josh Johnson, drafted out of high school by the Marlins in 2002 from Oklahoma, 4th round pick, and he has been just terrific in his rookie year. And he goes down for the 2nd time, and that's 9 strikeouts for Oliver Perez in 3 2/3 innings.
Well, it's just an overmatch, a little bit tardy.
In 2006, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York are teaming up to strike out cancer. For every K the Mets pitching staff registers, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York will donate $25 to the Hope and Heroes Children's Cancer Fund. If you'd like to help, please go to www.hopeandheroes.org. So 2 out and nobody on. Here's Hanley Ramirez, who's grounded out and struck out.
Well, it's all fastball here. He isn't messing around.
The 9 strikeouts matches the most Perez has had in a game this year. He struck out 9 earlier this year while with the Pirates, and 9 again tonight. And he's ahead on Ramirez, 0-2. And I don't remember the last time I saw a pitcher get to double digits in strikeouts in the 4th inning.
Not even Doc.
And Ramirez stepping out on Perez.
That's not a bad idea. Take him out of his rhythm.
In there for a call, strike 3. Oliver Perez strikes out the side. 2nd time he's done that, and he has 10 strikeouts through the first 4 innings. But he's on the short end of a 4-0 score. We go to the 5th inning in Miami. Josh Johnson has held the Mets at bay both before and after an hour and 20-minute rain delay. Cliff Floyd leads off in the 5th. Cliff grounded out to second base his first trip. This is the 7th game that Floyd has played since coming off the disabled list. He is just 3 for 21 in that span. We saw him retreating on that double by Wes Helms earlier in the game and looking a little uncomfortable. And it's clear that Cliff is having to play through some discomfort. And the question becomes, can he handle that discomfort well enough to be a productive player?
Well, he's getting every opportunity, that's for sure. But there is a deadline. Made real clear by Willie Randolph 2 days ago. And it would be tough for Cliff to be a platooned player or someone to come off the bench pinch hitting. Cliff is a power hitter. It's a lot. He needs to play every day to stay in a groove.
Just missed. And that's an interesting question. If Cliff is not well enough to play every day, as you look at this pitch, very borderline. If he's not well enough to play every day in the postseason, his career numbers as a pinch hitter are not good. So would you keep him on the roster to come off the bench? 3-2 to Cliff.
That's what I think the challenge that Willie laid out there for Cliff. I think he threw out the gauntlet there. I mean, that's the challenge. Willie is very good at that, as challenging his players in a positive way.
3-2 to Floyd. Toward the hole, base hit. And the Mets have their third hit off Josh Johnson. Well, it is certainly no secret that while Joe Girardi has done a remarkable job with this Florida team, that his job status is questionable because of the clashes he has had with the Marlins owner Jeffrey Loria. And today they took the team picture, and there they are, all smiles. Cheese. I got a question for you. Since when does the team owner sit in the team picture?
Hey, he's the owner. He can do what he wants. But I know.
I've never seen that before. Have you?
Neither have I.
I mean, maybe Connie Mack, but he was the manager too. I've never seen a team photo with the owner in it until that. One to 0 to Sean Green, who struck out his first time up. Chris Cotter, you have a thought?
Well, Jeffrey Loria is a very hands-on owner, and it certainly is something, as you mentioned, that Joe Girardi found out earlier this year, and they had a very public rift in their relationship through the summer. But I spoke to a couple of writers here who have been around the team all year long here in the South Florida area, and one thing that they told me, as Sean Green gets the count 2-1, the one thing that they told me was they have a very good working relationship right now. And the fact of the matter is, Joe Girardi sees this much like the way Torrey had to deal with Steinbrenner. And he says even though he realizes and he remembers how much Torrey was stressed, he said Torrey was able to flourish with it. And that's how Girardi sees it with him. He can still flourish with an owner like Jeffrey Loria, who is very hands-on. And I think that's the approach Girardi's taken. And both writers I spoke to said they would be surprised if Girardi was let go at the end of the year. A lot of rumors persisted about that, but he still has a couple of years left on his contract. This team is in no shape to be paying somebody who isn't here, and the players love him, and they have ever since he first stepped foot in the clubhouse this year.
It's interesting because I've also spoken to some media members here in Miami who have a very different view. As Green strikes out on the fastball, second time Sean has gone down, one away. There's a view that Girardi has been very much of a control freak, as Green was very late on the fastball, and that he's not only clashed with Loria, that he's clashed with Larry Beinfest, the general manager, and a lot of other people in the organization. They speak about Girardi much the way Buck Showalter is sometimes spoken about, as a guy who wants to be in charge of everything in the organization, which is tough for the manager to do.
Well, managers are always going to fight for the players they want, and it's no oddity that a general manager and a manager would clash in the course of a season or a tenure together. But ultimately, it's the general manager that makes the final decision.
Or the owner.
Well, yes,
depending on what the issue is.
Depending on dollars, certainly. the general manager, I'm sure it's discussed from the personnel point of view, from the baseball people. Loria is not a baseball person, and then it's up to him whether the purse string's open or not.
And of course, that's one area, player procurement. But there are a lot of other issues involved about how the players carry themselves and what part of their lives is controlled by the manager. It's a very interesting discussion, and one that is going on kind of underneath the surface here in Florida, because neither Girardi nor Loria want to talk about their relationship and what the future might hold. They want to talk about, rightfully so, what's going on with this team who's writing a remarkable story this year.
It's kind of difficult to fire a manager, particularly if the players love him, and obviously it shows on the field and performance.
Valentine takes it wide, 2-2.
If you've got a team out here that's not competitive down here in Florida, you're not even getting anywhere near drawing 1 million fans, which they just went over the 1 million mark.
Oliver Perez out on deck.
They just need a new stadium here desperately.
Pulled over the bag, foul ball. Chuck Merriweather with the call, and that was very close to being an extra base hit for Valentine.
Just foul. Good call by Merriweather there. Not off the bag a lot there. Wes Helms, that ball was a bullet.
Valentine flying to center his first trip. A little tapper, and that kicks foul. Well, as far as getting a new stadium is concerned, the Marlins lease is up in this stadium after 2010, which is only 4 years from now. So they've got to go somewhere. Either they're going to a new stadium or they're going to another city.
And I'm sure that the Dolphins don't want him here, and they don't want to play on a dirt football field. I'm sure they would rather just have this as purely a football facility.
The thing is, once the baseball season is over, they take up the entire field here and put down a beautiful turf for the Dolphins, who are very much the prime tenant in this ballpark.
Absolutely. And their season didn't get off too grandly this week.
Ball into the Steelers in that Thursday night game. Long turn at bat here for Valentine. He's already seen 9 pitches from Josh Johnson with the pitcher on deck. They're in the 11th inning now in Cincinnati. The Padres and the Reds still tied 4-4. That's a game of great interest to the Marlins, who are 2 games behind San Diego in that wild card chase starting the night. There's ball 3. Second time the crowd has thought that Johnson had Valentine struck out.
Well, this just missed outside. Watch the catcher's glove. Tries to bring it back in. That's not going to fool anybody.
On 3-2 off the end of the bat to center field, and Amaziga right there, 2 away. So an 11-pitch battle, and Johnson wins it from Valentine, and now there are 2 out. And here's Oliver Perez, who poked a base hit over the third base bag his first time up.
And I think Cabrera, Miguel, will be playing a little bit closer to the line this AB, or he should. If not, he's not paying attention.
Perez thought about dropping a bunt down Cabrera's way. Also of interest in that wild card race, the Rockies got 3 in the first in San Francisco. The Giants 2.5 back of the Padres and just a half game behind the Marlins and trailing 3-0 in the second. And Perez was more committed to the bunt that time, and it's 1-2.
Well, he's trying to get on base any way he can. He's not a good hitter.
He's trying to make like Andy Chavez. Almost got nailed. 2-2.
Well, the Giants are running Sanchez out there tonight. He's 3-0.
Jonathan Sanchez, just his second start.
Colorado, of course, running Batista out.
It's Denny Bautista, his first start for the Rockies. In there for a call, strike 3. Third strikeout for Johnson, and for the second straight inning, he works around a leadoff hit. Well, that's a nice spot to go after the game. It's going to be a little late down at South Beach by the time we get done here.
Slightly.
Matt Yaloff here with your Chevrolet Baseball Night in New York update. Playoff implications plenty. Padres and Reds. Mike Piazza hits his 21st home run in a game that is now into the 11th inning, tied at 4-4 in Cincinnati. Dodgers and Cubs, and LA took a 7-0 lead in this game, but the Cubs have battled back. It's now 7-7 at Wrigley Field. Dodgers and Cubbies in the 7th. Gary?
We go to the bottom of the 5th inning here in Miami. What exactly are those guys wearing? Are they going on an expedition to the moon?
Oh, it's binoculars.
Night vision goggles?
Yes.
Dan Uggla leading off in the home 5th inning. 1 for 2 on the night, after going 5 for 5 last night.
And let's remind our viewers, if you just turn this game on, Oliver Perez has 10 strikeouts in 4 innings.
Of course, he threw 89 pitches in those 4 innings, so he's not going to be around long enough to get 20, in case you were wondering. Valentin toward the line, staggers and has it 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on. We check out the Lincoln Mercury starting pitching line. Josh Johnson picks up where he left off the last time he faced the Mets. Oliver Perez has given up a 2-run double and a 2-run homer, but look at the strikeouts. 10 of them. Here's Ricky Nolasco, who's been battling a sore knee up in the Marlins bullpen. Now, I'm not sure if this is a bullpen session for Nolasco or whether he's warming up to pitch in this game. Last we checked, they said he might start on Friday, so this might be just his regular between starts work.
That's what it said in the paper.
1-1 to Miguel Cabrera.
And I'm up in Palm Beach, so that was the Palm Beach Post was saying that he was nursing a tender knee.
They reliable, the Palm Beach Post?
They have actually a pretty decent coverage of the Marlins. Pretty decent coverage. You get a lot of good information.
Well, soon we'll know if your Ricky Nolasco information is reliable.
Okay. I'm relying on a writer, so oh boy.
Oh, how the worm is turned. The right field, Green is under it. And that's the 2nd out. You always got along with the writers when you were a player, didn't you?
Yes, I did. There was a few latter part of my career when I hadn't lost it that I had a problem with, but 90% of the New York press, and I got along with it. Was fine. It was all part of the job.
They loved you too, because you would tell them the truth.
Well, Frank Cashin told me
Willingham takes a strike.
When I came over that it was a young team, and they were always very paranoid about how the younger players handled the press. And Frank asked me if I would hold court, I guess would be the word, and take the burden off of, there's the media up there in the press box, if I would do most of the interviews after the game and stuff like that. So I did do that, and George Foster was very quiet.
So you were the go-to guy for the writers after the game.
Yeah. I mean, that's your job. If they come and ask you questions, you're supposed to cooperate with the press.
But in every clubhouse, there's 1 or 2 guys who the media know they can always go to after the game to get the salient quote. 2-2 to Willingham.
Well, I was never looking to make a profound statement. I just would answer their questions. And, you know, you have to walk a tightrope, too, because there's certain things that you can't tell them. And they're always probing. You know that. That's part of their job.
Willingham goes around strike 3. That's 11 strikeouts in 5 innings for Oliver Perez. He's now retired the last 7 in a row, striking out 5 of them, but the Mets need to do some run scoring for him.
Be at Shea for the last 2006 regular season home game on Monday, September 25th. The first 25,000 fans will receive a Mets Bandini, compliments of SNY and WFAN.
13 years of waiting.
Ground ball to second. Backman to Hernandez. The inevitable has finally become a reality. Wow.
That was the scene when the Mets clinched in 1986 their National League Eastern Division title, the third of 4 NL East titles that have belonged to the Mets, and the Mets working towards that one this week with a magic number of 4. New pitcher in the game for the Marlins, Ricky Nolasco, takes over for Josh Johnson.
Well, another one of these young guns in the starting rotation for the Marlins. The Mets have kind of roughed up Nolasco. He had his first start against the Mets earlier in the year. I mean, they just really beat up on him. There's Rick Peterson.
Very much encouraging to Oliver Perez, who has looked so much better these last few innings.
He's talking about his breaking ball, how he got the hitter out in front, probably taking something off. You see Rick pretending to be a hitter.
Now, when Nolasco was brought in the game just now, Joe Girardi went out and talked to the home plate umpire, and it looks like Nolasco's getting unlimited warm-ups here, which makes me think Josh Johnson has come out because of injury. Now, Johnson only threw 73 pitches, and remember, he came back after a long rain delay in the 2nd inning. So we'll have to wait and see whether Johnson has indeed come out because of an injury situation. Time for the Best of Barbados vacation getaway. If the Mets hit a home run, one grand prize winner will win an all-expense-paid trip to the Almond Beach Village Resort in Barbados. To enter or see if you're a contestant, visit sny.tv/Barbados today.
Well, I kind of am a little bit wondering about, I mean, Nolasco was warming up.
So Chad Bradford up in the bullpen for the Mets. As Oliver Perez is over 100 pitches now. Reyes takes a strike. Well, it's a final in Cincinnati. The Reds pull it out in the bottom of the 11th, beating the Padres 5-4. And so now the Marlins are just a game and a half behind the Padres in the wild card race.
Well, this is a huge game for them right now, the Marlins.
1-2 to Reyes.
We know Nolasco likes his curveball.
That's some crazy numbers against Nolasco. Reyes is 4 for 5 against him. LoDuca is 4 for 6. Beltran 4 for 5. Struck him out with a curveball. So Nolasco fans Reyes one away.
Well, an off-speed curve.
Log on to Mets.com now for your postseason ticket purchase opportunity. The deadline to register for the Division Series drawing is, well, it's tonight at midnight. For details, go to Mets.com or LosMets.com today. You got an hour and 13 minutes, gang. Get registered. Here's LoDuca, and he takes a strike. Paul has one of the Mets' 3 hits tonight. Mets have not really been clicking offensively over the last couple of weeks. In fact, coming into tonight, the Mets team batting average in the month of September was just .221. Raynel Pinto up in the Florida bullpen. Cabrera with time, and he throws out LoDuca 2 away. The Mets hit 273 in June, 275 in July, 272 in August, but just 221 so far in September. You see Oliver Perez, who may well be done after his 11 strikeout in 5-inning performance. Here's Beltran, who's 0 for 2. And there you see the graphic we were talking about. And how much of that do you think is a malaise of a team that has a big lead and has a long way to go and you know, knows that the clinching is inevitable?
Well, they hit the ball great in Colorado. Pretty good pitching staff in Houston they went up against. They're playing contenders right now for the wild card, which are the better teams in the National League. And another thing too, you know what? 2 weeks of the season, 2 weeks of the month left, they can turn it all around.
1-2 pitch. And he fouls off the fastball.
But certainly right now they are struggling offensively, collectively.
To Beltran. Well, the Mets have dominated the National League all year. And no matter whom they play in the postseason in the National League, they will be heavily favored based on what they've already accomplished.
Oh, they're very consistent as far as their home and away record. A great month of August. That's where they turned it on.
And they've never lost more than 4 in a row. Curveball misses, and it's 3-2 to Beltran. Two out and nobody on.
Well, this is Nolasco's 32nd appearance of the year. 19 of them starts, as we talked, Gary and I earlier. It's his 13th relief appearance.
Struck him out with a curveball. So Nolasco, who has had such problems earlier in the year against the Mets, particularly those 3 batters, makes it look easy. Mets still without a run. Turn up the volume on Jets Open Mic. Sportsnet New York's live coverage of head coach Eric Mangini's Monday and Wednesday press conferences. SNY delivers it to you live every week from Hofstra. Jets Open Mic, Monday and Wednesday afternoons only on Sportsnet New York. Well, I'm sure he can see everything and hear everything.
It looks like a character out of like Blade Runner. Jeez, look at this guy.
I don't know what to say, except that he's come very well equipped.
Maybe it's the heat down here.
Don't forget to vote in our MLB.com SNY text poll of the game. Who do you think is the best Mets manager in history? A, B, C, D, or if you're Keith, a write-in vote to 57508. Oh, I forgot you can't write in.
You can't write in for Bobby Valentine, huh? Boy.
How about Salty Parker?
How about this guy?
What sport? It's binocs. I guess he's seeing everything very much up close, including Chad Bradford, who comes on to pitch in back of Oliver Perez.
And there you see his 64th appearance. He's been solid all year.
Wes Helms leads off, chops one off the plate. LoDuca's got it. And he throws out the slow-footed Helms. 1 pitch, 1 retired. So 1 out and nobody on. Cody Ross coming up. One of the tasks for Willie Randolph over the next 2.5 weeks is to get his relievers enough work without getting them too much work heading into October. Bradford pitched an inning on Sunday and right back out there tonight.
Well, we always talked about the one advantage of having a big lead and clinching early is to set up your rotation. And the Mets don't have the pressure of a fight here. So they can set up their starting rotation and very easily make sure everybody gets their work and are not overworked.
You know, tomorrow night Tom Glavine pitches, and then after an off day on Thursday, Pedro Martinez will return to the mound. That's the plan on Friday night in Pittsburgh. And I was talking to Willie Randolph today, and he said that he's going to move things around in the coming weeks to get his starters lined up. And I said, is it safe to assume that Pedro will pitch the first game of the postseason and Glavine the second if everybody's healthy? He said, not necessarily.
He's always throwing out a challenge. And I like that philosophy that he has. In other words, Pedro's been out a long time. There's no guarantee. Suppose Pedro in his three starts doesn't pitch well. There's every possibility. I guarantee if he pitches well, Pedro will be his #1 starter.
Toward the whole base hit for Cody Ross. You just can't get Cody Ross out.
Well, not so far in this series. He's got 2 walks and a base hit.
And last night, 3 home runs, a single, and 7 RBIs. So, Mets have at least kept Cody Ross in the ballpark tonight. Here's Miguel Olivo. Olivo up twice tonight, struck out twice against Oliver Perez, who struck out 11 in 5 innings. Gave up 4 runs, 4 hits, walked 3, and is on the hook in this game. Hey, Olivo swung at the first pitch.
Surprise. He took the first strike. Tonight, his first at bat, which was a shock.
He forgot. Or maybe he's just trying to cross them up by taking a first pitch every now and again. And the sinker misses. It's 1-1 to Oliva. Well, Oliver Perez was perfect against the lower third of the order. Olivo, Amezaga, and Johnson. 6 at bats, 6 strikeouts. One and 2 to Olivo. Pedro Feliciano getting up. You got Amezaga on deck, who is a much better left-hand hitter than right. But he probably won't be ready in time for him. Slider in for a call strike 3, and Olivo has struck out 3 times in a row.
Well, the old Laredo slider right on the corner got him out in front.
So two-way, and here's Amezaga, who will get to bat from his better side now, left-handed against Bradford, after striking out twice as a right-hand batter.
Do you think Minnesota's hot?
Well, they've rallied. They were down 5-3 going to the bottom of the 8th. Twins got 4 in the 8th, and now they go to the 9th at the Metrodome, and the Twins lead the A's 7-5.
Amazing.
They have been great. And tomorrow night, as you look at the score, tomorrow night they get their phenom back. Francisco Liriano returns from the disabled list.
It's a final.
So the Twins stay a game and a half behind the Tigers, who won earlier tonight, beating Texas 3-2. Slider in for a strike to Amezaga, 0-2. Meanwhile, the White Sox, who began the night a game and a half behind the Twins, are in Anaheim and trailing 2-0 in the 4th. How about this one? If I'm not mistaken, the Dodgers had a 7-0 lead in that game with Derek Lowe on the mound.
Wow.
And now they trail the hapless Cubs in the bottom of the 8th. Meziga lifts one to shallow center. Beltran's got it. Side retired. So a strong inning for Chad Bradford. Mets looking for offense. Maybe some chicken tenders to get them revved up. Big night for eats. Late night eats.
Matt Yaloff here with your Chevrolet Baseball Night New York update. Rangers and Tigers and Detroit in dire need of a win, and they get it. Carlos Guillen with a walk-off home run is second in the game. The Tigers beat Texas 3-2. Gary, Keith, back to you guys.
All right, Matt, that is a very clutch hit for Carlos Guillen. Boy, do the Tigers need that.
Wins don't come easy for Detroit this month. Well, actually, the last, 3 weeks.
That's just their 11th win in their last 33 games.
Well, Nolasco looks like a much different pitcher, doesn't he, Gary? What we've seen, the 2 appearances he's had against the Mets so far this year, he's been touched up, but he's getting his curveball over today.
Delgado 0-2.
Got an off-speed curve with a lot of spin, a lot of bite. This one's a little up, but it's away. That's a pretty good pitch.
So Nolasco being called upon in relief and looking sharp. And Delgado takes the curveball in the dirt. 1-2. Ricky Nolasco working in back of Josh Johnson, who worked just 5 innings, but worked around an hour and 22-minute rain delay in the second. And the curveball just misses. Let's see, Josh Johnson has now thrown 17 innings against the Mets without allowing an earned run.
This just curves around the plate. Boy, he's so vulnerable up and in right now with a fastball. There it is. Fought it off. Good hitters fight it off. And the difference with that being a strikeout, Gary, or an out, is it wasn't up and in, it was down. Up and in would have tied him up.
Checking out the Hyundai in-game box score, and this has been the case quite a bit lately. Not a whole lot going on for the Mets offensively, just 3 hits. And it's 3-2 to Delgado. Mets had a leadoff walk in the second to Delgado. He was erased on a double play. A leadoff single for LoDuca in the 4th. He didn't get past first base. A leadoff single for Floyd in the 5th, and he didn't get past first base. So Mets have not had a runner in scoring position tonight.
They're going to drop a curveball away on him. No fastball.
That's the second baseman, Ugla, going a long way, and he can't throw him out. You've never seen a second baseman field the ball on a grounder where Dan Ugla just fielded it. That's just bizarre. It's like a different game. And Delgado has, is that an infield hit? It went 25 feet to the outfield.
That's an infield hit. Look at this. He's 20 feet behind the. Oh, nice stretch. What is Wes Helms doing?
Looks like Jason Phillips, didn't he? That's the way Phillips used to play first base for the Mets. So the Mets get another leadoff base runner. That's 4 times in 7 innings. Let's see if he can move him this time. David Wright fouls back the fastball.
David's been a little bit tardy on that fastball. I know he's been in a hot streak, getting a lot of hits and hitting in the clutch, but he's missing a lot of fastballs that he normally hits.
0 for 6 now in this series. And he takes the slider inside. 1-1.
I think Nolasco would be doing David a favor throwing that off-speed curve. Playing behind Delgado as they should with a 4-run lead in the 7th.
Ripped toward the wall. Over goes Willingham. Can't get it. Delgado to third. Willingham on that wet track having trouble getting some footing, and so Delgado will score. Wright stops at second with an RBI double, and the Mets are on the board. It's 4-1 Florida. There is so much water on the warning track out there in left field that Willingham just couldn't stop once he missed this ball.
Well, I said he'd be doing him a favor throwing him an off-speed curveball. I never said pitchers were the smartest guys in the world. And Delgado here, who runs well once he gets going for a big man. David thinking about 3 and saying, no, we're 3 runs down. I'm going to stop.
Certainly with nobody out, you're not going to take that chance. So 110 RBIs now for David Wright. That's his 38th double. Joe Girardi out to the mound. He's got the lefty Reniel Pinto up in the bullpen with Floyd and Green, 2 left-hand hitters coming up. Check it, that's not Pinto. That's Taylor Tankersley, his other lefty. And Tankersley is coming into the game. Don Velasco exits. Tankersley is on.
I need White out.
Well, the Mets and Marlins had to wait out a couple of rain delays tonight. Even the peanut guy had to wait. Once we finally got started, the Marlins did some big hitting against Oliver Perez and took a 4-0 lead. But once Perez got it dialed in, he wound up striking out 11 in 5 innings. And now the Mets trying to battle back before they head to South Beach. And the lefty Taylor Tankersley takes over the pitching to face Cliff Floyd.
Well, this has been their big left-hander out of the pen. He is having an outstanding year.
Yet another rookie. Cliff is 1 for 2 tonight, single through the right side in the 5th. And he was not happy with himself after that last pitch. You see how much Cliff has struggled against lefties this year.
Just missed. Good eye by Cliff. That's a big breaking ball there. Big slider. Big sweeper. Good eye.
Right at second and nobody out. A run home here in the 7th. Center field base hit. Wright turns third. He'll be held as Amaziga gets it in quickly. And the Mets have runners at the corners. And they'll bring the tying run to the plate with Sean Green. That was a shot off the bat of Floyd.
That was a blue dart. Look at this. Oh, my word. Watch Tankersley. Oh. Oh, my goodness. If that had been down lower, that would have clobbered him. Well, here's Wright, and rightly so. No pun intended. Maniac holding him up.
Well, with nobody out, you don't want to take a chance, and now the Mets have the tying run at the plate. So Cliff has 2 hits tonight. And here is Sean Green, who's been up twice and struck out both times. Mets showing some life here in the 7th with 3 straight hits after being held to no runs and 3 hits over the first 6 innings.
Well, this is a little preview, Met fans out there, of what you're probably going to see out of bullpens in postseason play. In the bottom half of the order, you've got Floyd, Green, Valentine turned around hitting on his weaker right side. This is what's going to happen when managers face the Mets in postseason.
And Tankersley doing a number on Floyd, and that has less to do with Floyd running and I think more to do with, and Cliff, apparently time was called. Time was called. Tankersley thought he had him picked off. But, you know, Cliff's got the bad wheel, and I think this is as much about that as it is about him worried about Cliff running.
Yeah, but it's also a fact, too. Cliff is a veteran, might try to sneak one. So for a rookie, that's being very alert. Cliff called timeout. You saw that.
Green takes ball 1.
Well, this has been the Achilles heel of the Marlins is their bullpen.
Right at third, Floyd at first, and nobody out. Infield at double play depth. They'll concede a run to try and get 2. There's a good slider for a strike.
In games that Josh Johnson has started, and it's a slider right here. Not a great, good pitch. Their ERA is 6.72 in games that Johnson has started. That is third highest in the majors.
That's not a lot of help. Fought off by Green, 1-2. Well, Taylor Tankersley had never pitched above Double-A until the Marlins called him up in June. There's Valentin on deck, and they have so many players like this. Guys with no resume at all. Tankersley just 23 years old, and Joe Girardi has put him in a big spot. He was their first-round draft pick 2 years ago. One-two to Green. Struck him out. One away. Third time that Sean has struck out tonight.
Well, it's a backup slider. Watch the catcher have to come backhand on the inside corner. If you're going to make a mistake with it, that's where you want to make it. Or it starts out at the hip of the hitter and breaks over the inside corner, not over the middle. And that just froze Green.
So one away. Now Valentin, as Guillermo Mota gets up with the pitcher due up next. Valentin has hit just .225 as a right-hand batter this year. Tonight he's been up twice and both times flying to center. And he takes ball one. Leo Franco out on deck to bat for Chad Bradford.
Well, there's no one up in that Marlin bullpen to make Willie think about anything. A right-hander possibly up to make Willie have to, he's got Chavez to counter. Tankersley's the man.
Off the end of the bat, foul, 1-1. We've also got Michael Tucker and Ricky LeDay from the left side. But I think right now Joe Girardi has more confidence in Tankersley than he does in any of his righty setup guys. I mean, Joe Borowski's done a nice job as their closer, but the guys in front of him have been a big problem. There are not many people here, but those who are here are making a lot of noise. Good breaking ball by Tankersley, 1-2.
Well, it's in the dirt. It's not a strike. And Valentin goes fishing. And we always talk about it, Gary. That third pitch is the difference between 1-2 and 2-1. It's a huge swing in an at bat.
Taylor Tankersley from the University of Alabama. Same school that produced a pretty good line drive hitter named Dave Magadan.
Dave could hit a little bit, couldn't he?
First and third and one out. Valentin at least trying to get that run in from third. Now it's 3-2. A walk would fill the bases and put the tying runs on. Would you send Floyd?
No, not with his wheels.
3-2 to Valentin, not going, and it's ball four, and the bases are loaded. So now the tying runs are on base with one out. And Tankersley will have to face Julio Franco. Rick Kranitz, the pitching coach, is going to pay a visit to Tankersley, who's faced three batters, giving up a bullet single to Floyd. He struck out Green, but now the walk to Valentin fills the bases.
Well, this is a game that cannot slip away from the Marlins. They're in a position to close to one game on San Diego, who lost tonight. And Tankersley lost Valentine on a 3-2 breaking ball. And that's a big difference in today's game. It's like the old American League in the 60s and 70s, a breaking ball league. And that's baseball today. I just think pitchers get too cute.
So Franco will have the opportunity here. Julio's got 15 pinch hits this year, but here's the flip side. 129 at bats. He's grounded into 9 double plays. That's a lot.
Well, if he hits the ball on the ground, you can bet it's a double play. Now, Tankersley is going to do Franco a favor if he throws him a breaking ball, an off-speed breaking ball, because Franco is 49 years old. At least that's what he admits to.
I think he admits to 48.
Okay.
Don't slight him.
I stand corrected. Don't let him catch up to a ball.
Well, they give him a hole on the right side of the infield, and that's where he usually shoots it. And he takes a strike. They worked him inside.
Fastball in to start him off. Be interesting to sit home and watch how they pitch Franco here. You watch the catcher Olivo set up inside.
Reyes waits on deck.
I wouldn't let Reyes hit right-handed if he's going to come up here. I'd have a right-hander I'd make him bat around left. So let's watch how they're going to deal with Julio.
And I'm sure that's part of why Kranitz came out to the mound, but I'm surprised that Uggla's playing as close to second base as he is.
Well, that's called double play depth, and that's just too hugging second base too much with a hitter that goes a notorious off-field hitter.
1-1 to Julio.
And you noticed that Olivo set up inside. Another fastball. They want to pound him in. That's the book on Julio.
Goes away and he finds the corner, and Franco does not like that call at all. That certainly looked to be off the plate.
Well, that's a pitch that he has not been calling a strike. Brian O'Nora, home plate umpire, he has not been calling that pitch a strike all day.
That's an awful call.
And that's a critical, we talked, you know, that third pitch. Now it's 1-2 instead of 2-1.
Bases loaded, 1 out, 7th inning. Mets down by 3. Struck him out with a slider. That's the second out.
Well, what set this whole slider up was the fact that he pounded Julio in. And he got the call on that outside fastball, but he set that breaking ball up with 3 straight fastballs.
So it's left to Reyes, who's 0 for 3 in this game, but has been money with 2 outs and runners in scoring position this season.
Boy, he sure has.
Wright at third, Floyd at second, Valentine at first. Reyes hitting .410 with 2 outs and runners in scoring position this season. But he pops it up. Is it playable? Olivo coming back, and he runs out of room.
There's not a lot of foul territory here in this ballpark. And you can see right there, it's tight. And it gets even tighter as you go down the left field and right field lines.
The rookie left-hander Taylor Tankersley being asked to do some heavy lifting here in the 7th against some right-hand hitters. Look at that. 19 for the last 34 in these situations.
That is phenomenally clutch.
Well over 500. Reyes with 75 runs batted in for the year. Way outside, Olivo stops it enough so that Wright has to scramble back to third.
A little bit of an overthrow here. He wanted that ball inside. Look how badly he missed. David here, very alert. Thinking about it, saying, we're 3 runs down.
The thing about Olivo, he's got good wheels for a catcher going after that ball. Tankersley's really taking a lot of time. (4-1) Florida, 7th inning. Did it hit him? I believe it did, and that forces home a run. Reyes got hit on the foot, and that drives in a run to make it 4-2. And now apparently they said, did they say he swung?
They said he swung.
The first base umpire, Chuck Merriweather, made the signal back to Brian O'Nora, the home plate umpire, saying that Reyes swung.
Well, if he did swing and it's moot, yep.
He did.
Then it's a strike. That is the rule.
That's a good call.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it hits you if you swing. If you swing, it's a strike. And so Reyes will come back to the plate with a 1-2 count, and that's an excellent call by Chuck Merriweather.
And also very alertly by Olivo to ask for help. And that is a swing. He did not hold his swing, and that hit his foot, but that once you swing and you get hit by a pitch, that's a strike.
And now Reyes has to shake it off. Well, he's unhappy, but it was the right call. So now it's 1-2 to Reyes. Tankersley's been ahead of everybody in this inning.
He'd be wise to throw him a fastball up out of the strike zone. See if Reyes will go swing at a pitch. Run his eyes.
Wright faking down the line from third, trying to draw a balk, but Tankersley's not buying it. And finally, Reyes asks for time.
You go up the ladder here, bad, and see if he'll swing and not, then come back down the ladder with a breaking ball down the dirt. Easier said than done.
To third, Cabrera merely needs to step on the bag, and that ends the inning. A terrific relief outing by Taylor Tankersley. The Mets managed just 1 run and trail by 3. We go to the bottom of the 7th inning. Game twice delayed by rain, thus the late hour. To get your Sportsnet New York on the web at any time, make your homepage SNY.TV, the online home of all things New York sports. It's also where you can submit your questions to Dodgers Ask the Booth. Scott from Germantown, Maryland says, guys, why do scouts get such great seats?
Well, Scott, why do you think?
I don't know. Why?
Because they're looking at the players. And it's a mutual. They're scouting pitchers. They're scouting. And they got to have a view behind home plate.
That's it.
So, Scott, that was a very logical answer right there.
I think Scott would like those seats. And he wants to know why the fans can't have them and the scouts can.
That's what he wrote? All right, I've been unduly harsh on Scott. Scott, forgive me.
Well,
all right.
I think the scouts appreciate having those good seats. Maybe one of them could invite Scott to the game. And sit next to him with a radar gun. Well, Taylor Tankersley is going to stay in to bat. His first big league at bat. That's a strike. But this is interesting, Keith, because we talked about the Marlins bullpen and how much difficulty they've had getting the games to Joe Borowski.
He's off the plate, is he not?
Well, he hasn't really done this before. Remember Dae-Sung Koo last year, his first at bat?
Yes.
He was standing in the dugout. And then his second at bat, he hit a double off Randy Johnson. So you never know. 1-2 to Tankersley. But I mean, Tankersley's a left-handed specialist who came on and threw 21 pitches and got out of a jam, and now they're going to kick him out there for another inning.
Well, you've got LoDuca, the only right-hand hitter. You got Beltran turned around to the right side, and Delgado. Now, I'm sure that he'll probably have Borowski up, and if Wright does come up, ask him to get 4 outs. But that being said, Gare, that's a little dicey for Joe.
Well, Borowski's never been much more than a 1-inning pitcher. As Tankersley takes a shot at the Mets dugout. All clear.
Well, that's the beauty of watching baseball. When you're a fan and you get this part of the game, you can think along, second guess a manager, whatever you want to do. And
first guess even.
Yes, agree with the manager or disagree.
Strike 3 call. Tankersley down. That's 13 strikeouts for Met pitchers tonight. Hey, what do you say at 11:31 in the evening? We get the results of our MLB.com SNY text poll. Who do you think's the best manager in Mets history? Write-in votes not allowed. Close vote.
Davey
and
a walk.
But Willie ahead of Gil Hodges. How about that? I wonder how Bobby would have fared if you'd stuck him in the middle of that.
That would have made it very interesting.
Would have done better than Yogi, I'll bet.
What, we can't have 5 contestants?
I think we only have room for 4.
Okay.
Hanley Ramirez takes ball 1. But if they ever can put the E up there, we're going to do it just for you.
But it can't be all the above or none of the above. It has to be another name.
That's a cop-out.
That's another option.
You gotta take a stand. 2-0 to Ramirez, and you're good at taking a stand.
No.
So maybe instead of A, B, C, D, and E, it should be A, B, C, D, and K for Keith. And Ramirez has himself his first base hit of the night. Beltran cuts it off, and Ramirez will settle for a single. So a 1-out base hit for Hanley Ramirez. That's the Marlins' 7th hit of the night. Or their 6th, depending on how you count. When it gets late, sometimes those things get away from us. You do?
Yeah. 3 in the first.
Yeah.
2 in the third.
Only had 1 in the third.
No, Cabrera got a single and the home run.
Oh, okay. Good job.
Thank you.
Ramirez runs. LoDuca throws him out. Very close play, and Joe Girardi's going to come out to argue it. Hanley Ramirez with 47 steals gets caught for the 14th time. Phil Cuzzi with the call. And Girardi not happy.
Well, here's the throw, much like yesterday, but a little longer hop this time for Valentin, and he's out. What do you think? I thought he was out.
It was very close in terms of sweeping that hand across the leg before the foot got to the bag.
Very close.
Yeah.
I think he got him. It's a nice tag by Valentin.
It's one of those ball beat him, but his foot might have hit the bag before the tag.
Correct. The ball beat him. He's out.
2-4 on the caught stealing. 2 out and nobody on. On 0-2, Uggla takes low and outside, 1-2. Dan Uggla 1 for 3 today after his 5-hit game last night.
Dodgers tied that game up in the 9th. It's 8-8 in the top of the 10th.
Dodgers were up 7-0, fell behind 8-7 in Chicago, and now tied in the 10th.
And we are at that scoreboard watching time of year, aren't we?
Well, you know, we watch the scoreboard all the time, but what about as a player if you're in a race?
You're watching. I think the Mets watch just because they're trying to figure out, okay, who are we going to play in the first round? It's much more relaxed scoreboard watching. Florida, they got a lot more at stake.
I mean, you think they were in the dugout when they saw the San Diego score post and said, yeah,
absolutely.
Padres lost.
Let's go, guys. Absolutely.
Guillermo Mota, the third Met pitcher of the night.
I never liked Gary when the last trip in the old days to the West Coast. And if the Cardinals weren't on that trip, and they always were, they were always playing Atlanta, Cincinnati, they were already played hours before us, and we knew whether they had won or lost already. You didn't like it when they'd won.
3-2 to Uggla. Well, sometimes you don't want to know. I mean, I remember in 1998 when the Mets fell short of the wild card the last week of the season. There was that day when Brant Brown dropped the fly ball for the Cubs, who the Mets were trying to chase. It was ball 4 to Uggla. That happened in a day game against the Brewers, and the Mets were poised to make their move that final week of the season. And then Carl Pavano shut them out that night, pitching for Montreal. And the Mets lost their last 5 in a row. Sometimes you'd rather not know that that opportunity is there.
But you can't help but look. Human beings are have a very curious nature.
Here's Miguel Cabrera, 0 for 2 and a walk. Or 1 for 3, I should say. I think that's where I messed up the hits. I wasn't paying attention back in the third.
You need white out?
Nah, I fixed it. What was going on in the third that I would have put a walk when he actually got a hit? I never do that. Were we talking about
a home run?
Were we talking about something really interesting at the time?
It was a 2-run jack too, and you called it. You made the call. You're the play-by-play guy. How'd you blow it?
Oh, I didn't blow the home run. I wrote Cabrera's single down as a walk. How could I have done that?
I don't know.
You must have been saying something fascinating at the time.
Well, you think so?
I love that little throat clearing of yours. It's very poignant.
I have a little slight cold, actually.
No, but it seems to be making a point.
Well,
there's Willingham on deck. I mean, it's not just clearing your throat to clear your throat. You're clearing your throat to tell me something.
We have fun up here.
I've noticed that. Brian Moeller, the veteran, up in the Marlins bullpen. Mota throws the fastball by Cabrera to end the inning. So a couple of strikeouts for Guillermo Mota. He gets Cabrera. We go to the 8th. Mets down 4-1.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Sterling Mats and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling Mats.
We go to the 8th inning. You know what's really funny? It's raining again.
Slightly.
We've already had 2 rain delays tonight, totaling over 2 hours. Paul LoDuca leads off in the 8th inning, and Tankersley throws one to the backstop. Well, that's what got the game stopped the last time. Don't you remember? Josh Johnson slipped on the mound, and Jerry Crawford stopped the game.
You can see the raindrops. Fastball not even close.
Well, Tankersley came out of the bullpen to pitch the Marlins out of a mess in the 7th. And now left on to face LoDuca, Beltran, and Delgado in the 8th. The Phillies got rained out tonight in Atlanta. That means the Mets will get no help there in terms of reducing their magic number, which stands at 4, and unless they can rally, will stay at 4. Phillies and Braves will make that up with a doubleheader tomorrow. Two and one to LoDuca. Joe Borowski, the closer, is up with 6 outs to go. Ryan Moeller stays up alongside him. There's a strike 2-2. And LoDuca, oh, he's hot. LoDuca is hot.
Well, the umpire, Donora, just wolfed him right back, so that always gets it started.
It's been a long night for everybody concerned. And the Mets were still fired up about a call in the last inning on Julio Franco.
Let's see. Close.
Now it's 3-2. The one to Franco was off the outside part of the plate, and LoDuca clearly thought this one was off the inside. Mets need base runners, down 4-1 in the 8th, with Beltran and Delgado to follow. Base hit for LoDuca. I'll tell you what, he plays great when he's angry, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
I mean, he was angry.
And he's firing. Well, wrestling fans, starting September 22nd, Friday night SmackDown is moving to the all-new CW11. Now you can catch all the action of your favorite WWE superstars on their new home. Friday night SmackDown starting September 22nd on the CW11.
Very nicely done.
It was a long night. I'll give you a break.
You're good.
Team guy. I'm a team guy.
Everybody should have a captain like you. Slider in for a strike to Beltran, who's 0 for 3 on the night. Carlos has been on base at least once in 17 straight games, but not so far tonight. Trying to get Delgado to the plate as the tying run if he can get aboard here. A little high, I guess. 1-1.
Boy. Close. My goodness, that's
had to be high, right?
Just above the belt.
And now Tankersley ahead on Beltran, 1-2. '23-year-old Taylor Tankersley. A little high to Beltran, 2-2. Carlos with 40 home runs. 32 of the 40 have come as a left-hand batter. One more home run, and he'll tie a Mets club record. Carlos also has scored 118 runs to lead the National League, and that's just 5 away from the Mets club record for runs scored. Tell you what, Tankersley's in no hurry. It may be 11:46, but obviously he does not have a date.
Obviously, he doesn't have to drive an hour and a half back up to Jupiter like I do.
Could you tell him? Three and two now to Beltran. So Tankersley struggling a bit. That's the left-hander Reniel Pinto joining Borowski in the bullpen. So if Tankersley runs out of gas and they need a lefty, they'll have Pinto available. Now it's 3-2 to Beltran. LoDuca at first and nobody out. And Paul hardly getting a lead. Not running. Foul. Still 3-2. Aaron Heilman staying ready in the Mets bullpen. It is barely raining.
He wants to throw his breaking ball 3-2.
And it's lined into left field for a base hit. So Beltran right behind LoDuca, back-to-back singles, and now the Mets will get the tying run to the plate again here in the 8th.
Well, he shook off Olivo, and he throws a curveball right down the middle. Slider.
Rick Kranitz will pay another visit to the mound to talk to Tankersley. As we check out the Toyota National League scoreboard, the Reds beat the Padres in a thriller in the 11th. And so for the moment, the Padres just a game and a half up on Florida in the wild card. St. Louis beat Houston, so they stay ahead of the Reds by 5 games. Wild game in Chicago. Dodgers were up 7-0, down 8-7, and tied in the 10th. Washington and Arizona even in the 7th. And the Giants were down 3-0 early, but now lead the Rockies. The Giants started the night just 2.5 back in the wild card. Rainouts in Pittsburgh and Atlanta. They'll play 2 at Turner Field tomorrow. So Joe Girardi's going to stick with Tankersley, who's faced 7 batters and given up 3 hits and a walk, but he's gotten the big outs when he's needed them. Chris Rysop gets up now in the Marlin bullpen. They wouldn't bring in Borowski to get 6 outs,
no.
maybe 4. So they need to have somebody else available to face David Wright, who's on deck.
I'm surprised he didn't have a right-hander up earlier. I know why he went to Pinto, because it passed Wright, it's lefties, but you've got to have a right-hander ready for Wright.
Well, he had Borowski up, but he figured he'd have an out or 2 by the time Wright came up.
He had to switch gears in his thinking.
Now it looks like he may have none or 1 out. Delgado 1 for 2 and a walk. Tying run at the plate with nobody out. And he smacks one foul.
Tankersley's got a bit of a flat slider, and he loves it. He throws it way too much.
LoDuca at second, Beltran at first, and nobody out. Mets got a run in the 7th and a chance for more, trying to do the damage again here in the 8th. To center field and deep. Amezaga back, going back near the wall, and it's out of here! Carlos Delgado ties the game with a 3-run homer. Number 38 for Delgado to dead center field. 105 RBIs, and Joe Girardi's bullpen can't hold it for Josh Johnson. The Mets have drawn even in the 8th.
Well, another slider. Said he throws it too much. Well, he did. He deserves the fate.
So Delgado with a huge home run against the team that dealt him away in the offseason. And he ties the game for the Mets here in the top of the 8th. That is a long way out. And the young left-hander Tankersley can't believe what fate has dealt him.
Mix in a fastball.
Well, he's done. Chris Rysop will come on to face David Wright. Delgado with a huge home run, his 38th, has gotten the Mets even. Well, Taylor Tankersley was able to get the Marlins out of trouble in the 7th, but not in the 8th. Couple of hits, and Delgado with the 3-run homer, and that's worthy of note.
Well, I bet you he's riding in there. I was watching on the bench. This man loves his slider. He threw me a slider first pitch. I was looking for a slider the second pitch, and I got it.
And it wasn't a terrible slider, was it?
It wasn't a. It's a flat slider. It's not a sharp breaker.
Well,
he might be tired. He's pitched a lot of pitches. I don't know why. He's a young kid. Was he 20-something years old?
23.
How did he get tired? Throwing 30 pitches.
Here's another 23-year-old Chris Resop, who was just recalled when the rosters expanded. He made 15 appearances for the Marlins earlier this year. And now David Wright, with the Mets having made up a 4-0 deficit, getting Oliver Perez off the hook on a night that Perez struck out 11 in 5 innings. We'll try and get the Mets closer to taking the lead. David's 1 for 3, an RBI double tonight. And Resop misses with a fastball high. See the rain coming down. Not all that hard. We've had a couple of long rain delays. To deep left center field. Headed back toward the wall. That ball is out of here. No, it's not. It's in play. Did that hit the scoreboard?
I couldn't tell.
I thought it hit over the scoreboard. No?
Well, there was the white National League sign there, and it's tough. It's a tough call.
Willie thought it was gone. And are we going to have the umpires confer here?
Let's see.
Nope, it hit the scoreboard.
Hit the scoreboard.
Good call by the umpire. Bad call by me.
It happens.
Delgado thought it was gone. Well, second double of the game for Wright. And Chris Resop will exit, and they'll bring in the left-hander Pinto to face Floyd and Green. So the Mets now with the lead run at second base with nobody out, poised to try and gain the lead here in the 8th inning as Reniel Pinto comes on to relieve Chris Resop. Well, David Wright barely missed a home run. He had at least 3/4 of the people in the ballpark thinking it was gone. But look where the ball hits. Right on that white border at the top of the scoreboard.
And as we discussed in commercial break, why would they have anything white around any area of a scoreboard or a fence?
I'll give Phil Cuzzy credit, the second base umpire. He went out there and immediately called the ball in play, and he was absolutely correct. They got one wrong last night on the 3rd home run by Cody Ross, which they called fair, that was really foul. But now the Mets are a base hit away from grabbing the lead here in the 8th inning. Cliff Floyd 2 out of 3 tonight. Mets were down 4-0 in this game. They got a run in the 7th and 3 in the 8th on Delgado's 3-run homer to get the game tied. And Reniel Pinto, the new Florida pitcher, misses low, and it's starting to rain harder.
Let's play 2 tomorrow.
Here's what Pinto has done this year. He's been up and down between the Marlins and the minor league. And that's hit toward the gap in left center field, and that'll get the Mets the lead. Up against the wall, Wright trots in to score. Cliff Floyd with his 3rd hit of the night, a run-scoring double, and the Mets are taking their first lead of the game. It's 5-4 New York.
Well, well, well. This is what the Mets have done all year. And this has been the Achilles heel of this Marlins club. This is a huge game for them. Their bullpen lets them down to Cliff. Level swing. Cliff 3 for 4 tonight, by the way. Makes a bigger statement in tonight's game than yesterday.
Here's Sean Green with Floyd at second. And he takes a strike. Sean trying to avoid the golden sombrero tonight. He's struck out 3 times in a row. Well, the Mets have taken the lead here in the 8th inning, and rain is falling. And that's worthy of note.
Oh!
Green gets brushed back.
Nothing wrong with that. Not enough of that today. Tankersley would have been served himself well to do that to Delgado to come inside.
Pinto, a very young, hard-throwing left-hander. And Green with a good cut, 1-2.
It's raining pretty good.
Well, you've got one more minute to log on to Mets.com for your postseason ticket purchase opportunity. The deadline to register for the Division Series drawing is, well, it's at midnight, which is now 30 seconds away. For details, go to Mets.com or LosMets.com today.
Well, the Mets better hurry up here, because if they don't...
And Green goes down, and that's the golden sombrero for Sean Green, the first out of the inning. Now, because the Mets have taken the lead here in the top of the 8th, if for some reason they had to stop this game and it wasn't resumed, it would become a suspended game. The only time you have suspended games in the majors is when the visiting team ties or takes the lead in the top of an inning and that inning is not completed. And that's the situation we would have here. But for now, they're playing on.
So that would be a beautiful thing, because there wouldn't be a doubleheader tomorrow.
No, well, you have to complete the suspended game.
Complete the suspended game. And you're not starting from scratch.
Right. You started where it left off. 1-0 to Valentine.
That's a wonderful rule. I did not know that.
It only comes up once or twice a year, if that.
It's lightening up again a little bit. Lightning. Say it for me.
Lightning. It's lightening up.
Yeah, thank you.
It's not lightning like with thunder and stuff.
2 nights in a row. Must be in Florida.
Too much rain. 2-0 to Valentine. Blasting's Millage on deck to pinch hit. Valentine lifts one to center. Amezaga got a late break, but he'll get back there. Floyd tags at second. He'll head over to third, and Amezaga gets the throw there, but a little too late. So 2 out. Floyd now at third. And Blasting's Millage will come up to pinch hit. Well, these runs belong to Guillermo Mota, who pitched a scoreless 7th inning. He's pitcher of record on the long side. Chris Resop, who gave up the double to David Wright, is pitcher of record on the short side. Millage had a run-scoring double off the bench last night. Looking to pick up Floyd from third with an insurance run. Gets ahead with a changeup, 0-1. Aaron Heilman will get the pitching assignment in the bottom of the 8th as we push past midnight here in Miami. Back-to-back changeups, and Pinto gets ahead 0-2.
Well, so you can see Lastings has trouble that pitch away. You saw him stepping there slightly in the bucket.
One and 2 to Millage, who's the 8th man up in the inning. Mets have scored 4 times here in the 8th. Delgado a 3-run homer to tie it. Cliff Floyd a run-scoring double to put them in front, and Reyes on deck. It's always special for Floyd to do well here in Florida. In there for a call, strike 3. Millage down looking, and the inning is over, but the Mets grab their first lead of the night. Carlos Delgado with a 436-foot bomb to tie up the game. And then Cliff Floyd going the other way to put the Mets in front. State Farm Mets Weekly on Sportsnet New York. Your all-access pass to the New York Mets as the Mets TV home brings them into your home in season, off season, every week of the year. Aaron Heilman takes over the pitching as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Mets now with a 1-run lead for him to protect.
Well, we have seen this so many times, Gare. Heilman to Wagner, it has been so successful, whether it's Bradford first in the tandem or Mota now. This has been the strength of this ball club. the bullpen.
We'll see if the Marlins, who badly need this game, can get off the deck after being dealt a body blow. Josh Willingham already has a 2-run homer and a single tonight, 2 for 3. And he takes the changeup for ball 1. All right-hand hitters due up for the Marlins here in the bottom of the 8th.
Well, they've got a right-handed lineup.
They've got Mike Jacobs on the bench. They've got Joe Borchert, a switch hitter, on the bench. And that's basically it. I mean, they've got Eric Reed, who's a minor leaguer, and Jeremy Hermida, who's hurt. So they've really only got 2 left-handed options. There's a strike, 2-1. Drive base hit for Willingham. Andy Chavez, who came in this inning for defense, gets it back in, but Willingham with his 3rd hit, and the Marlins have the tying run aboard with nobody out.
Well, this is good hitting right here. Inside fastball. Let's see. Oh, he turned on him, just down. That's why.
He's a good-looking hitter, isn't he?
He swings the bat. He's dangerous.
Willingham comes out for a pinch runner. There's Eric Reed, who we mentioned a moment ago. He did some center field playing for the Marlins early in the season, but didn't hit very much and spent most of the year in the minors. But Reed has speed, and now he's at first base as the tying run as Wes Helms comes up. Helms is 1 out of 3. He got the Marlins off to a fast start tonight with a 2-run double off Oliver Perez in the first. The Dodgers wound up losing that game in Chicago 9-8. So the Padres stayed just a game and a half behind the Dodgers. They both lost tonight. Helms up there to bunt, and Hammond will have to go to first. So the sacrifice successful. 1-4, moving Reed up to second.
Well, it's back to the pitcher, but he deadens it.
And Reed's fast.
No chance.
So 1 out. Joe Borowski hoping for a save opportunity, or that the Marlins can at least tie it up for him. And here's Cody Ross. 7 RBIs last night, on base 3 times tonight. Tying run at second and 1 out. And he takes a strike. Yellow Levo, who struck out 3 times tonight, on deck. Ooh, good fastball by Howman, 0-2.
Threw it right by him, up and in. It's a good spot. Beat him. Well, no gripe from LoDuca there, so they had to be outside. My goodness, that's close.
Thought it might be low.
I don't like the way the umpire, Onora, sets up so far inside. He's got an off angle to look at that outside corner. How upright he stands.
Check swing tapper. Howman's got it. It'll ignore Reed and get the out at first. So they're at 2 away. Now that tying run moves over to third base. And it's left to Miguel Olivo. Well, we've already seen 1 golden sombrero tonight.
Well, we got an opportunity to see Another one.
Sean Green has struck out 4 times in this game. Met pitchers have struck out 14. Marlin pitchers have struck out 9. That's a lot of strikeouts. Tying run at 3rd and 2 out. And Olivo, first pitch swinging. There's a shocker. 0-1.
And a changeup. Another shocker.
Reed with good speed at 3rd. To right field, playable for Sean Green. And Howman works around the leadoff base hit. We go to the 9th in Miami. Mets with a 1-run lead.
Matt Yaloff here with your Chevrolet Baseball Night New York update. Yankees just put the hurt on the Devil Rays tonight. Hideki Matsui, first game since May 11th. He was out with that wrist injury. 4 for 4, and Bobby Abreu drives in 7, 6 of them in the first inning. Gary?
New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. Visit geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. By Jeep, the all-new 7-passenger Jeep Commander. It's your world. Take command. And by the New York State Smokers Quit line. Call 1-866-NY-QUITS for free help and advice. Start your smoke-free life today. Changes for the Marlins. Alfredo Amezaga moves from center field to left field. Eric Reed, who pinch ran, stays in center. And Joe Borowski, the closer, will be brought in with his team a run down in the 9th.
And he has been their closer, and he's got excellent stuff. He's really had a nice bounce back year, the veteran. Good curveball. I've been impressed by his stuff. He's pitched against the Mets this year, and he's been shown some great stuff.
And Chris Aguila has taken over in right field for Cody Ross. So I would imagine they will double switch Borowski into the game in Ross's spot. Billy Wagner getting set to try and close things for New York. Jose Reyes leads off in the top of the 9th and slashes one down the line, foul.
Good night for LoDuca. 2 hits.
There's a strike. 0-2 to Reyes, who's 0 for 4 on the night and has reached base in 18 straight games, but not tonight. And Borowski misses 1 and 2. Reyes has not had many fruitless nights the second half of the season.
Well, he came into the night hitting 300.
Lofts this one foul. Cabrera and Olivo just got out of the way. I'll tell you what, Olivo has great wheels for a catcher, but that time it almost got him in trouble.
That is not his ball right there. It's way out of his range. That's almost to third base. That is the third baseman's ball.
Cabrera's got some looks, doesn't he? He gave Olivo a look.
Like, what are you doing over here? It's been a long night. You've been squatting. Just relax. I got it. It's my ball.
LoDuca 2 for 4 on the night, and he takes inside. Well, the paid crowd tonight was 15,163. And you might expect at 12:16 in the morning there might be 100 people left, but there's more than that. There's a couple of thousand on hand, scattered. Pretty good on a weeknight. toward the middle, base hit. Third hit of the game for LoDuca. And so the Mets bidding for some insurance in the ninth, get a one-out base runner for Beltran.
Pretty good pitch that LoDuca hit right there. Off-speed pitch, down.
Beltran is 1 for 4, singled and scored in the 8th. Mets were down 4-1 when they came to bat in the 8th. But LoDuca and Beltran got aboard with base hits, and Delgado hit a bomb of a 3-run homer to get the game tied. Wright followed with a double. Floyd doubled him in to give the Mets the lead. Howman made it stand up in the bottom of the 8th, and now the Mets trying to get some insurance in the 9th. 0-2 to Beltran. Joe Borowski, the pride of Bayonne, New Jersey. Took him a long time to achieve big league success. He had pitched a little bit with the Orioles and the Braves and the Yankees, but he was a Newark Bear in 2000, pitched down in Mexico before finally bouncing back. That's ripped to right, but right at Aguila. LoDuca may get doubled up. And Aguila throws back to first, but it gets by Helms, and so LoDuca able to get back safely. That should have been an easy double play. But Aguila's throw drew Helms off the bag, and then it went under Helms' glove.
Well, it's right at Aguila. Not a great throw to Hopper, but Helms has got to make that play. LoDuca just made a complete misjudgment. Normally a very good base runner. He got away with it there.
Not lucky. So that keeps the inning alive for Delgado, who had a 3-run homer his last time up, and he's asking the second base umpire to move. Phil Cuzzy was in his line of vision, so he took a couple of steps to the side. And now Brian O'Nora and Miguel Olivo in discussion, and I don't know what this is about.
Oh, they're woofing at each other. Come on. He asked the umpire to move.
Which is perfectly within his right.
I wouldn't be arguing with Mr. Delgado. He's a pretty big guy.
1-0 to Delgado, who now has 38 home runs and 105 runs batted in. Wright has driven his 110th run tonight. Beltran with 114. Been quite a year for the Mets offense. 1-1 to Delgado. Wright to follow.
That pitch up and away, Delgado has a little bit of trouble with. This is not a good cut. Look at his fanny flying out, leaning over, not good balance.
Changeup up and out of the strike zone. 1-2 pitch. Misses with the slider. Delgado in 2003 drove in 145 runs with Toronto. That's his career high. Not going to approach that this year, but he has had himself a fine first year in New York.
I'll second that.
And that's with, you know, a fairly prolonged dry spell in the middle of the season. But he started strong and he's finishing strong. Just outside of the fastball, 3-2.
Well, just missed.
So LoDuca will run with 3-2 and 2 out. Helms behind him. 4. And the Mets have 2 men on for David Wright. David with a pair of doubles tonight. Drove in the Mets' first run in the 7th and then scored the go-ahead run in the 8th. And now trying to get an insurance run home for Billy Wagner. Wagner has kind of specialized in one-run saves this year, but always nice to get him a little cushion.
And David hitting .370 with 2 outs and runners in scoring position.
Fouls the first one back from Borowski.
And that is outstanding.
LoDuca at second. Delgado at first with 2 out. Wright has had only 2 career at-bats against Borowski, 0 for 2. Lashes that one foul, 0-2. Andy Chavez came in for defense. Took Cliff Floyd's spot. Cliff had a big night with 3 hits, including the go-ahead double in the 8th. Borowski ahead 0-2. David takes it inside.
Oh my word. This umpire behind the plate, Brian Honora, he has been so erratic. And that's a pitcher's pitch. Call it.
I mean, the one that he called a strike to LoDuca in the last inning was so much further inside.
He's leaning over the inside corner.
Now it's 2-2. Well, he's called things that look like ball strikes, and he's called things that look like strikes balls, and that's.
They don't call inside strikes. They don't call inside strikes anymore.
And yet he called the one to LoDuca. Remember the one Paul got so angry about?
Erratic, inconsistent. I just don't understand. If you look at how he's set up right over the inside corner. On a straight fastball, you can't miss.
Hit hard, base hit. LoDuca will have to be held at third as that ball got to Amezaga in a hurry, and now the bases are loaded for Chavez. So Wright given an extra opportunity. Where have we seen that before? Saw that the other day against the Dodgers.
Well, you got to pitch him in. David with 2 strikes. If you go away, you're a rockhead.
Well, that's the 3rd hit of the game for Wright. And now here's Chavez up for the first time, looking to give the Mets some breathing room. Bases loaded, 2 out. Chavez having a phenomenal year, hitting .309. And he's been great with runners in scoring position this year. And he takes ball 1 from Borowski. Andy Chavez hitting .362 with runners in scoring position this year. He takes a strike, 1-1. Mets have had so many wonderful contributions from players who were added as bit parts, but Chavez has been so much more than that. LoDuca at third, Delgado at second, Wright at first, 2 down. And Andy takes ball 2. This game was scheduled to start at 7:05. It was delayed 47 minutes at the start by rain. Another hour and 22 minutes in the 2nd inning by rain. And the breaking ball misses, and now it's 3-1. So Borowski now a pitch away from forcing in a run. The Marlins had a 4-0 lead in this game. Josh Johnson, the starter, left after 5 innings. And the bullpen has let it get away. 3-1 to Chavez. That's ball 4, and it forces in a run. So LoDuca trots in to score. The Mets have their insurance run, and it's 6-4 New York. Second walk of the inning by Borowski, and
he's hot, and I don't blame him.
Happy camper.
I think he let that call really bother him, that third strike call that he didn't get on David Wright.
And worse for Joe Girardi, he uses his closer a run behind to try and keep things close. Now Borowski's thrown 27 pitches here in the 9th inning, and he has spent him.
They may wait for the umpire to come out here and give him a little.
This could be a conflagration right here.
There, he's going to give it to him. Borowski cannot get involved. He's got to get out. Well, if you're going to do it, get run. It's actually your manager's job to get run here if you're going to do it.
And you don't want any chance of your closer getting suspended when you're in a pennant race. So just leave. And Borowski does.
Well, he's talking to himself.
Well,
I don't blame him.
You can't blame him. I mean, Brian O'Nora has had an awful night behind the plate on both sides. And Borowski was victimized here in the 9th inning. So the Mets now with a 2-run lead and a chance for more. We'll come back in a moment. Well, the moon's looking awfully nice.
Well,
on a Tuesday night. It's Wednesday. No, it's Tuesday. Oh, it's Wednesday morning now. That's what confused me. Moon over Miami, you know. Check out our AOL game summary. Carlos Delgado with the big 3-run homer in the 8th to tie the game. Cliff Floyd 3 hits, including the go-ahead double in the 8th. Josh Willingham a 2-run homer for Florida. For a better high-speed internet, you belong at AOL. Well, Matt Hergis comes on to try and get the final out here in the top of the 9th. And Sean Green will bat. Green already has struck out 4 times in this game. So he's got the golden sombrero and he's trying to avoid platinum. And Hergis throws a strike. But here's the question. If you hit the grand slam, does it erase the golden sombrero?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like it never happened.
Or a base hit right here. It breaks the game open.
Bases loaded, 2 down, a run in here in the 9th. Mets have scored 6 runs, all in the last 3 innings, to take a 6-4 lead. Green facing his former Dodger teammate Matt Hergis. Delgado at third, Wright at second, Chavez at first. And he gets an RBI with the bases loaded walk. To Green. Well, the Marlins have now used 7 pitchers. Their starter, Josh Johnson, was terrific, as he generally has been against the Mets. There's Valentin on deck, but the bullpen has been a whole different story. And Green pops it up. Does Cabrera have room? He does, and that puts an end to the inning. But the Mets tack on an insurance run. We go to the last of the 9th in Florida, and Billy Wagner will come on to try and save it. Halloween comes early in South Florida. It's 12:33 in the morning. I guess it's time to howl anyway. Billy Wagner comes on to bid for his 37th save of the year. He's 1 behind Trevor Hoffman for the league lead in saves. Jason Wood will bat for Alfredo Amezaga, leading off in the last of the 9th. Wood, 36-year-old minor league journeyman, had a double in his pinch hitting appearance last night, and he takes a strike, 0-1. It'll be Jason Wood, Chris Aguila, and Hanley Ramirez up against Wagner in the 9th. A win for the Mets would reduce their magic number to 3. Give them the chance of clinching the East tomorrow night, because while the Mets will be playing the Marlins here, the Phillies will be playing a doubleheader with the Braves in Atlanta. So if all goes right, the Mets could be Eastern champions by the end of play tomorrow night.
They need cooperation from Atlanta.
1-1 to Wood, and he threw the fastball by him. Of course, there's a Strong possibility the Mets could clinch on their off day on Thursday, which would be kind of anticlimactic.
Oh, it would be awful, wouldn't it?
Mets will be off on Thursday before opening their series Friday in Pittsburgh, with Pedro Martinez making his return. Struck him out. Wagner gets Jason Wood, 1 out.
Well, this was just an overmatch, Gary. Big time.
Chris Aguila comes up for the first time. Aguila spent a good chunk of this season in the minor leagues. Called up when the rosters expanded. And he takes a strike.
Wagner's throwing much more smoothly since he's gotten a lot of work. He's just really, his wildness is gone. He's just going after hitters, getting ahead.
1-1 to Aguila. Coming up tonight on Sports New York, following Nissan Postgame Live, we'll go back in the Mets clubhouse. Hideki Matsui returns to the Yankees, and the Giants get set for the Eagles. 2-1 to Aguila. Marlins need a base runner, down by 2 in the ninth. Hanley Ramirez on deck. Even without the 2 rain delays, this has been a long game.
I've enjoyed every minute with you up here today.
Thank you. It's always nice to have your company as well. But we've had over 2 hours worth of rain delays, and the game itself over 3 hours and 20 minutes. And thus it's 12:36 in the morning, and Billy Wagner has not yet finished his work for the night.
Well, there's Ray Ramirez chatting up Willie.
All involved will sleep well tonight.
I will when I eventually get home.
We need to get you some no-dos for the drive.
No, I'll be all right. I'm wide awake. I'm wide awake. Trust me.
I trust you.
I'm back on baseball time during this season this year.
3-2 to Aguila. Toward the hole, base hit. And the Marlins are alive. They'll get the tying run to the plate here in the last of the ninth. So a 1-out single for Chris Aguila.
Well, nice at bat for Aguila. Down and in fastball. A little bit stumbling out there, but nice at bat. Down and in. Nicely done. Just David Wright has had so many chances this first 2 games.
The lefty's pitching. Well, the Padres lost. The Giants are leading their game, so the Giants could take advantage and get within a game and a half of the Padres.
Look out for those Giants.
They're up 7-5 in the 8th against the Rockies. Taken low by Hanley Ramirez. Ramirez 1 for 4 tonight. He has 13 home runs on the season. 0 for 3 against Billy Wagner. Tying run at the plate here in the ninth. Oh, and the slider bounces, and it's 2-0.
Well, you heard that. Saying it hit him. Let's see. Nope. Stop begging. Nice play by LoDuca. Showing great agility there. That was not an easy play.
And that keeps the double play in order. Although Ramirez a tough man to double up. But you got good hitters behind him as the Marlins try to rally. Ugla and then Cabrera. Thinks about bunting for a hit, and Wagner misses, and now it's 3-0. A walk would put the tying runs on base.
I think it kind of startled Wagner there. Not startled him, but surprised him is a better word.
3-0 now to Ramirez. You figure he's got to take a pitch, and he does, and it's a strike. Or at least Brian O'Nora said it was a strike. Dan Ugla to follow. Wagner last pitched on Saturday when he got the save against the Dodgers. 3-1 to Ramirez. Popped up, shallow center, long run from Beltran. He won't get there. And now the tying runs are on base. Beltran playing deep in a no doubles defense, trying to keep that tying run out of scoring position, but it cost him the blue pit.
Well, he's got to play a little bit deeper, and we know that Beltran likes to play deep, but in this situation, nothing over your head. And it plays into the Marlins' hands. They get lucky here. This is a blooper all the way. And now you have Dan Uggla coming up, and behind him, the leading batter in the National League, and Miguel Cabrera.
So here's a huge batter for Wagner. Uggla tonight 1 for 3 and a walk after going 5 for 5 last night, and Cabrera looming. Mets bullpen has been spotless tonight. Bradford, Moda, Heilman, each for a scoreless inning, and Wagner trying to do his part here in the ninth. And Uggla swings and misses.
Well, the Uggla was all geared up for a first pitch fastball. Got a slider out of the strike zone.
Well, Uggla's hit 24 home runs this year, tied the record for a rookie second baseman. One here, and the Marlins go home happy. But Wagner stays with the breaking ball and gets ahead of him 0-2.
Well, he knows the book on Uggla is a fastball hitter. 2 straight sliders, 0-2.
Two on and 1 out. And Uggla stays alive. Aguila at second. Ramirez the tying run at first. He can fly. Popped up. Beltran should have time to get under this one, I think. Valentin goes out, and Valentin bails him out. Tell you what, Mets got a little fortunate there because Beltran, who looked like he had enough time to get under it, was not going to get there.
Well, he did have enough time. Now they're both calling for it. Beltran knows what he's doing here. He's not going to get a collision, and it's Valentin wants the ball too. Those are 2 guys right there, that 2 veterans, 2 aggressive plays right there.
So they figured that out. Now Wagner's got to figure out how to get around Cabrera. 2 out, 2 on, last of the ninth. Marlins down to their final out. And Cabrera waves at the fastball, nothing in 1. Cabrera 1 for 4 tonight.
Cabrera's had showed a little blind spot up and away.
Oh, and 1 to Cabrera. Missed inside. 1-1. Cabrera just 1 for 7 in his career against Billy Wagner. Mets 6, Marlins 4, last of the ninth. 2 out and 2 on. The league's leading hitter, Miguel Cabrera. And the fastball misses high, and it's 2-1. Now remember that Eric Reed is in the number 4 spot in the order because he ran for Willingham. Reggie Abercrombie on deck to bat for Reed. So Wagner has a little breathing room here because of that. But he challenges Cabrera, and now he's 1 strike away from nailing it down.
Well, it's been all fastball to Cabrera. Fastball away to lead him off. We'll get ahead 0-1. 2 straight fastballs up and in that missed. And then a fastball up and away. Now, good time for LoDuca to come out. Okay, this is the pitch. Breather. I just like what LoDuca does back there. I have all year. He's a winner.
Sandy Alomar, Willie Randolph hoping Wagner can get that final strike. Struck him out, and the ball game is over. 2:04 in the morning. Billy Wagner puts the hammer down on the Marlins, his 37th save, and the Mets rally late to win. Their magic number is down to 3.
Well, just a devastating loss for Florida as they had the 4-0 lead with San Diego losing the day. A very tough loss for the Marlins.
Now the Mets had to wait a long time to do it through 2 long rain delays. Down 4-0, but they rally. A run in the 7th, 4 in the 8th, 1 in the 9th. And Willie Randolph watched Billy Wagner strike out Miguel Cabrera to end it. And the Mets pull it out. The magic number is down to 3, and there's at least the possibility of a clinching here in Miami tomorrow night. The final score, Mets 6 and the Marlins 4. Be sure to join us tomorrow night for the final game of this series. Mets and Marlins will be with you at 7 o'clock. Coming up, it's Nissan Postgame Live. Now the Mets trying to get even with the Marlins, and the Marlins got off to a fast start again tonight around a couple of rain delays. But once Oliver Perez kicked it into gear, he struck out 11 in 5 innings. Mets were down by 3, but Carlos Delgado solved that in one swing. Cliff Floyd gave the Mets the lead, and they win it 6-4. For Keith Hernandez, Chris Conner, and our entire crew, I'm Gary Cohen. Let's go to Matt Yaloff in our Sportsnet New York studio.
Thanks a lot, Gary. Coverage of the Mets and Marlins continues here on SNY with Nissan Postgame Live. Ron Darling and I will break down tonight's game, and you'll hear from Willie Randolph as well, his postgame comments following this comeback win. And then after Postgame Live, it is Sports New York coming your way with Steve Berthume. But after a break, it's Nissan Postgame Live. Ron Darling in the house. We're doing it after this. So the magic number is down to 3. Late game heroics provided by 2 former Marlins. You're watching Nissan Postgame Live with Ron Darling. I'm Matt Yaloff. Sports New York follows this show. It was rain. It was more rain, and then an exciting comeback win. And the Mets, you know what? They needed this because this team was flat.
I think they were flat last night. I also think they're a little flat today. But I think with all the rain delays and everything that happened, it shows you what kind of team the Mets are. A very resilient kind of team that does not give up, and they stayed in this game and finally won it.
It's got to be tough when you know clinching is inevitable. You just don't know when. It's got to be tough to come to the ballpark. I know they're paid a lot and they're pros, but every day grinding it out, and these games don't mean much in terms of wins and losses.
Well, it looked like the Marlins were peaking, and it looks like the Mets were peaking at the finish line because they were not playing well. But the thing about it is that I think for them, I think the most important thing is that they're going to play these games hard. I think tomorrow they can probably give a lot of the regulars a day off. And then if they give them the day off, they also have Thursday, which is the day off. Gives them 2 days. They come back ready to play with Pedro Martinez pitching on Friday.
You like that idea to give these guys 2 full days in a row?
I would give them 2 full days in a row, and then if I was Willie Randolph, I'd have a little talking with them and say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do, guys. We're getting down to the point where we don't want to lose any of our, momentum. So let's really go after them on Friday with Pedro and go from there.
All right, we'll see what happens. Clinching is still a possibility tomorrow if the Phillies lose a couple of times against Atlanta and the Mets win. Lots to do before that. Take a look at these highlights here. If you're with SNY, back around 7 o'clock, the game was delayed by roughly 40 minutes or so due to rain. This is before things even got going. And then Oliver Perez starting for the Mets, and Dan Uggla. Remember Dan Uggla? Sure you do. Last night, or it was 2 days ago now, Ron, because we flipped over the clock. He starts off the game with a hit again. Then Josh Willingham singles to center field. Dan Uggla moves on, and the Marlins are in business in the first. They have 2 men on. Wes Helms. Is this a catchable ball?
This is a play. If Cliff Floyd is not hurting with that bad Achilles, he makes that play. Not able to make it. 2 runs in for the Marlins.
Not to mention, he knows that ballpark well. He played there. After a Cody Ross walk, Miguel Olivo strikes out. He struck out 3 times. Perez gets out of the inning without any further damage, and then it rained again. The delay lasted well over an hour. That's just ridiculous.
It's Florida in September.
Florida in September, and that's the best they can do with the water removal down there at Dolphin Stadium. Play continues in the second inning, and David Wright grounds into a double play. It's 6-4-3. Second inning, Perez comes back. Alfredo Amezaga, Josh Johnson, Hanley Ramirez, he was dominant when he was when these guys weren't hitting the ball.
You know, if you're Rick Peterson and Willie, you have to be salivating watching him with that kind of stuff.
All right, Sean Green goes around. Tough night for Sean Green. 4 strikeouts. Jose Reyes back to Johnson. He gets the out. Johnson gets out of a mini jam. Johnson, 3rd time facing the Mets, good again. And this is not good if you're the Mets. It's Willingham, Josh Willingham, his 24th home run of the season. It's 4-0. So the Marlins picking up where they left off in Game 1. But then Perez gets out of that, and Rick Peterson, is he talking about the arm slot again?
He's talking about the arm slot, and I think he's just trying to really bolster his confidence. That's all that Perez needs.
And Perez faces Ramirez and gets him looking. Strikes out 11 in 5 innings, gives up 4 runs. So pretty solid all around if you factor in the Cliff Floyd ball that may have been a catch under normal circumstances. Look at this. Dan Uggla goes to what is it, like Muskogee County or something like that for that ball. Doesn't get his man. David Wright, and this one into the corner, so it's an RBI, and the Mets are finally on the board. They have something going here in the 7th. It's a 4-1 game. Now, Cliff Floyd, again, challenged by Willie Randolph. Another nice night.
Taylor Tankersley came in to face Floyd. Floyd answered. That's the answers you want. Floyd hitting off the left-handers.
All right, so runners at the corners. Sean Green strikes out. Then Julio Franco, with the bases loaded, also strikes out. Jose Reyes hit with the bases loaded. That drives in a run. But wait, hold on. Not so fast. They say Reyes went around, Ron.
Well, it wasn't the home plate umpire, Brian O'Nora, but the first base umpire says that he did not check his swing, went around, and if you are judged to go around, even if it hits you, that is a strike.
All right, so it was a good call, I guess. Same at bat, and a similar ending. It's an out. Not a strikeout, but yeah, they're out. So the Mets leave the bases loaded. 8th inning now. Paul LoDuca at the plate. Paul LoDuca, bam, right back to the box. He needed a big game.
Another one of the Marlins that had a big game with 3 hits.
All right, Carlos Beltran now into left field, and the Mets are in business in Carlos Delgado. Are you kidding me?
Well, Tankersley just kept on throwing him slider, slider, slider away. Cannot do that to a professional veteran hitter like Delgado. You have to change it up.
And big surprise, right? The leader of this team, or one of them, gets the Mets going with his 38th home run. This ball, you kind of lost a little bit in the background. Perhaps you did. It turns out to be a double for David Wright. It didn't leave the park, and you can see it kind of disappears into the white portion of that humongous scoreboard. So Wright's on second. Willie Randolph says, where was it? There it was. Cliff Floyd again.
Through the raindrops, raining throughout this game. Big hit by Cliff Floyd, challenged by Willie to play every day, and that's why he wants him to play every day. He can always come up with those big hits.
So it's 5-4 Mets, and then in the 8th inning, Aaron Heilman, how great has he been?
He just has been a great bridge to Wagner ever since he got that job in Miami when Sanchez had the accident in the cab.
Yeah, so we move to the 9th now, and the Mets add a run. They walk with the bases loaded, so it's 6-4. And it's 1 on for the Marlins here in the 9th. Billy Wagner's in, and suddenly they're in business. The Marlins get 2 guys on. And check this out. This could have been a disaster if Beltran doesn't get out of the way of Valentin here at the very last second. So the Marlins are down to their final out. Billy Wagner is up to the task, and he blows away the leading hitter. Miguel Cabrera goes high cheese and gets him right.
Well, it's a nice job by Billy Wagner throwing that ball out of the strike zone, not taking a chance with Miguel Cabrera.
All right, so here's the final score for you. 13 hits for the Mets. They really hadn't been hitting much this month. They were batting in the low 2s as a team. Oh, and by the way, the pen behind Josh Johnson this year had been flat out awful with an ERA of nearly 7. He left this game in good hands, but apparently not so good because they blew it again.
Well, I think it's a good job, too, by Joe Girardi taking him out because Josh Johnson's had a couple of bad starts. He's a rookie pitcher that's getting way up in his pitches, has 163 innings now. So good job by Girardi, but the pen was awful for him again.
All right, so the magic number now down to 3. We told you about that. The Phillies and Braves rained out in Atlanta. They will play 2 tomorrow. So that's the situation now. And if everything works out right for the Mets, they can clinch tomorrow. They need a lot of things to go their way. Carlos Delgado, we'll talk a little bit about him later on in Postgame Live, but now he was with Chris Cotter, and they spoke on the field after the win that took place a few minutes ago.
Carlos, this place brings back some good memories for you. You didn't play too long here, but you really hit a big stroke tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you got a good pitch to hit in that situation. I was able to drive the ball. I mean, when I was here, I was never lucky enough to hit that ball straight away center field, but I'll take it today.
You guys went several innings, 2 games, and then the first 7 innings tonight, really kind of a sleepwalking offensively. Was it just a matter of sticking with it?
Yeah, you know, we had to keep grinding it. We weren't swinging it back great, but I guess if you keep working at it, put together good at-bats, and, you know, everything's going to come. You know, definitely we got the talent. You know, it's hard to be locked in all the time.
Well, the way this lineup is, when one guy finally explodes, do the dominoes really fall? Because Cliffy had a huge night tonight as well.
I think Cliffy started the whole thing off. You know, he's really swung the bat great tonight, and we got so many pieces that can definitely do some damage. So that's a good thing. We don't have to press. We don't have to work at it. You know, we don't have to go at it too hard. Just do your thing and just pass the baton if you can't get it done.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you.
All right, now very quietly, Ron, this home run not quiet, but very quietly, Carlos Delgado has taken on a leadership role immediately when he got to this club.
Yeah, he's been a leader the whole time. They needed a cleanup hitter. He's been that cleanup hitter. He's now on a pace, very quietly, for 40-plus home runs, maybe 120, 125 RBIs. Good season. Yeah,
they could have 2 40 home run guys. They likely will have 2. And before this season, the Mets had only had 2 guys to hit 40 ever in a season.
The Mets have never had an offense like this. This is just amazing the way they're playing so far this year. And then you add to the mix Wright, you add to the mix Reyes, all up and down that lineup. If Floyd can keep playing night in and night out, impossible for a pitcher to pitch around anyone.
2/3 of the way through the game, you know, you're looking down, you're writing down some notes, and you're thinking, boy, they don't look too good.
Yeah.
And suddenly, a few innings later, everything is back on track. That's how quickly this team can turn things around. Still ahead on Nissan Postgame Live. More on this game from Miami, Florida. We'll go back to Dolphin Stadium, and we'll hear from Willie Randolph at some point before we send you over to Sports New York. And we will talk with Ron Darling further about this win. It's all coming up right here on Nissan Postgame Live. Back here on Nissan Postgame Live in Midtown Manhattan, Ron Darling, Matt Yaloff. Sports New York follows this program. Steve Berthiaume will have baseball, he'll have football. Huge night for the Yankees, Bobby Abreu. He'll get to that a little bit later. Now, Oliver Perez tonight. The Mets didn't hit. The Marlins were on top. Nice comeback. So lost in this is a very good outing, again, by Oliver Perez.
Well, early in the game, he could have really avoided a lot of the problems that had happened, but there was a ball that into left field. Cliff Floyd, of course, who doesn't have as much movement as he usually does, was not able to get back to that wall. If he had, he could have saved Perez 2 runs there, and his line would have looked a lot better. But the great thing about Oliver Perez tonight, which I really like, the other games when he had a big inning or gave up some runs early in the game, he kind of imploded, and he didn't do that tonight. He kind of calmed down. Rick Peterson got him going, and he started throwing his pitches. And I think any Met fan, anyone who watched this game realizes that this kid can be special. 239 strikeouts 2 seasons ago, and he's one of these guys that, of all the trades Manaea's made, Oliver Perez could be this big steal of the century.
Yeah, and you know, the Pirates gave up on him, or they figured, you know, he's not going to get it done here. Does that happen to young guys? They show something, they take a step backward, and an organization says, you know what, it's not happening here. It may happen, but we can't do it for him.
I think what happens to a lot of guys when they play for a team like the Pirates that are very not a good team, just an awful team, is that you lose your confidence, because even though you go out there and throw good games, you keep losing over and over again. So you end up, instead of having an 11-6 record, you're 6-11. You start to doubt yourself, and I think that's what happened to Perez, and I think that's one of the reasons that Peterson and Willie Randolph are going to try to remold him again, because as you watch tonight, he absolutely has the stuff to get big league hitters out. Those Marlins team last night, no one could get him out, and 11 punch-outs today in 5 innings.
Not to mention he hops over the line after each inning.
We like that.
We got to throw that in there. It's a little character, Turk Wendell-ish.
Prop to the hop.
Another transaction didn't get a whole lot of headlines. The Perez one barely got a mention because he was kind of a throw-in at the time. The Guillermo Mota addition, and this guy could actually play a huge part for the Mets in the postseason.
Well, listen, when he came over here, they were just going to try to get him some innings to see if he would play a part in their future. And I'm talking about future next year. But he came, they got him to the other side of the mound, the first base side of the mound, and he's been throwing as well as he's ever thrown. 3 years ago, he was the setup man for Eric Gagne. 85 appearances, 103 innings. One of the best setup guys in baseball.
All right, so maybe the Mets can make use of him. If it's a numbers game with that pitching staff, and we don't know who's going, who's not going, but he could very well.
Moda's in.
Moda's in.
Yes.
All right, we hear it right now from Ron Darling. 1:04 a.m. It's Wednesday now, right? Wednesday. All right, Moda is in. Josh Johnson is in as a very, very, very talented young pitcher for the Marlins. He had faced the Mets twice this season, had beaten them twice. Third time, comes back tonight. Another solid outing. How come he beats them again, or he had the ability to tonight before the pen blew it? Why no adjustments by the Mets to hit this guy?
Well, I think they did try to make some adjustments, but the problem with Johnson is that he just doesn't do anything fancy. He just keeps the ball down. He throws strikes. He works quickly. And one of the things he'll do is if he does get in trouble, he keeps that ball down, gets a lot of ground balls, therefore he'll get a double play. Tonight he had one of the best sliders I've seen. The first 2 times out, he really just kept using his fastball, but today he had an excellent slider. And you always like to see a young pitcher who pitches well through rain delays. I think that's something to be said about his concentration.
And here's the box score as far as the Mets are concerned offensively. In the pregame show, we talked about Paul LoDuca struggling a bit. Nice game.
Well, Paul LoDuca was just excellent with those 3 hits. And, you know, we talked about him that he's got to make sure that he takes care of himself in September. He's had the stats that he doesn't really hit well in August, September. Hit great in August. See if he can follow it up in September.
Yeah, and just quickly there, Jose Reyes 0 for 5. And when Jose Reyes really isn't doing anything, it shows you how difficult it is to generate runs. And the Mets waited quite a long time to get some runs going there.
But at the same time, like Carlos Delgado said, they have the kind of lineup, really, that they can, doesn't matter who's not hitting, pass the baton, someone else will do it.
And the man who writes up that lineup every night is Willie Randolph. Here are his post-game comments. He spoke with the media just a few minutes ago.
I got Chris here. Nice win, huh, Chris? Huh?
Yeah,
nice comeback. Nice comeback.
You didn't have to argue any calls or anything. Then
well,
it was just perfect.
You know, I don't know. I didn't think Jose swung in that one ball, but you know, that's okay. We got past that and moved on and came back with a sweet win right there. Carlos, the big bomb. David, they contributed to that too. So nice comeback. Real proud. Said that a lot about my boys, but you know, down by 4 and the rain delay and all that stuff, keeping you focused to come out and play. That's what we need to do, and nice win for us. Nice win.
Was the thought ever there about not having Perez go in again after such a long rain delay? Or?
Nope. He's young. He only has a couple pitches. Nope, he should be able to come back out. That's easy. Guys come in there and they get warm. Between innings, we kept them going, keeping them loose and stuff. So that's all standard stuff. No, there was never any question on that.
I think there was a big hit for Cliff there to give you the lead in the 8th, really, with everything he's.
Oh, they're all big. They're all big. I mean, you know, the thing is to sustain that and keep it going, be consistent with it. But Cliff is a guy who can hit. Obviously, we need him to get going, and hopefully it's a step in that direction.
Do you ever get a feeling that it's like a domino effect that if particularly with Cliff and Delgado, if those guys get a big hit, everybody else feeds off of those guys?
Well, that's what you like to happen. You know, Jose's usually our catalyst. He usually gets us going. But, you know, anytime we're patient at the plate and we get good pitch to hit, then we all feed off each other. That's the key right there. Not being over anxious, getting the pitch to hit. And when we do that, we can be pretty awesome, pretty tough. Pretty tough.
What did you think of Perez today with your 11 strikeouts and 5 innings?
I thought he was fine. I mean, you know, again, it was a good outing for him. I mean, you know, he made a couple mistakes here and there, but all in all, I thought he did pretty well. The rain delay and coming back out and kept his focus for the most part. So to me, it's still a positive outing for him. Hopefully continue to do that, but he did well enough to keep us in and around the game, and I like what I see out of him. I like what I see.
How about it, Ron? How do pitchers stay loose and warm and ready to go during a long rain break like that?
Well, what they'll do is they'll wrap their arm in some heat, and they'll get on the bike, and they'll ride the bike very gingerly. They won't ride it like they're trying to get a workout in. And once they do that, they can stay warm, stay away from the other guys, because they're all eating pizza, playing cards, because you want to keep your concentration. So that's the key for any guy, young guy or veteran guy, when there's a rain delay for the starting.
So is that true? They do not take part in things like card games and watching TV as a group?
No, the guys do that. I mean, all the guys are eating pizza, they're playing cards, they're having fun, the music's loud, but for the starting pitcher, you got to find a place, a niche where you can keep your concentration. Because when it happens and they say you're playing the game, everyone else has 15, 20 minutes. You got to warm up straight away.
Focus, tunnel, focus,
right.
Find your center. All right, we'll take a break here on Nissan Postgame Live. We'll come back after this. Oliver Perez tonight, 11 strikeouts, 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks. Looked pretty good. Oliver Perez talked to the media. Here's his comments following tonight's Mets win.
Oliver, how much did the rain delay affect you tonight, both in the start of the game and also after the first inning?
No, I just get warm and delayed. When they called delay, I was warm, and I was play catch like 2 times, and I don't feel like different. I get warm all the time, and.
Tell me about the home run that Willingham beat you with.
Yeah, I missed a pitch that's supposed to be inside, and he take the miss I do, and well, the more important, I hold the team to the 5 innings, and in the offense they do the job.
Was that sort of your goal coming out of the rain delay, to give the team 5 innings? I mean, was that what you were looking for? Yeah,
I just trying to do everything I can. I trying to go to 5 to 7 innings, but I used to do. I just throw 5, and that's good.
With your strikeouts tonight, this seems to be a continuing trend for you. A lot of strikeouts in the game. Do you feel like you're getting a little bit more control as these starts are kind of progressing?
Yeah, in the last game, in this game, I was started feeling more relaxed, and my velocity is coming, and I feel good with that, and so I got to keep working everything we do it for the next start.
Has Willie talked to you about a next start, when that might be, if that might be?
I don't know. I just want to wait when they give me the ball. I'm going to do everything I can for the team.
Okay. Thanks, Oliver.
Thank you.
All right, clearly he's not part of the postseason picture, but a nice project, though, for the Mets, and perhaps a starter next season in this rotation.
Well, and give him a nice feel. Also now has 26 strikeouts in 22 innings. And I think it's going to give him a nice feel coming down in September. He's going to see a team that is going to celebrate. It might make him work really hard this winter to try to get in that rotation next spring training.
There's a guy who is in the rotation for the postseason. That's pretty much a lock. I don't need him to tell me that. Tom Glavine goes tomorrow, and we figure, based on the calendar, how many more starts now for Glavine?
I think he's going to have 3 more starts before he gets into the postseason, and he was just excellent in his last start against the Dodgers. 6 1/3, scoreless innings, only 5 hits, and he was pitching like he did in the first half of the season when he was 11-2. So just an excellent job. He's facing Scott Olsen, though, another rookie for the Marlins, who's had a fantastic year this year. 147 punch-outs. That eclipses Dontrelle Willis's team record, rookie record of 142 punch-outs, so quite a year.
A lefty is a 4-letter word for the Mets recently.
It is a 4-letter word, especially when they're young and they haven't seen a lot of them. So it'll be interesting to see if the Mets can really bust that little slump they've had against young left-handers.
All right, we take another break here on Nissan Postgame Live. We'll return after this. We're in Studio A at Rockefeller Center West. Nissan play of the game. Mets trailing 4-1 in the 8th with 2 men on, and Carlos Delgado, dead center field, a 3-run home run, his 38th. His career high is 44, so if he gets hot here, he could do that.
He could, and he has been hot, and he said that he's never hit one over dead central when he was with the Marlins, so it's interesting he got that big home run for the Mets today.
That's a huge dead center there, isn't it?
434.
All right, and don't forget about Cliff Floyd here, because Delgado had a nice game, but Floyd had a really big game. Reason to be optimistic.
Home run yesterday, big hit, game-winning RBI today, and I think that's the key for them. He's got to be in that lineup.
All right, and the Mets come back and win. Billy Wagner with the save. Mets win in Florida, Game 3 tomorrow on SNY. Nissan Postgame Live says goodbye. Ron, Nat, Steve Berthium is next with Sports New York. Enjoy.